to the club. And let me here live on Facebook. Question, yes, continue. Can I okay. Now it's being live streamed. Got it. Got it. All right. So now we are recorded and live stream. So peace, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. This is another edition of, let me make sure I mute that. Make sure I mute that. Yeah, this is a part of self. Peace, everybody. Thank you for joining us. This is another edition of the Blackstonian Arts and Culture series. And right now we have with us our good brother, Hakim Green, from Newark, New Jersey, now residing, elsewhere, but from Newark. And
Originally
you may
from East
know
Orange, New Jersey.
what happened?
Originally from East Orange, New Jersey.
East Orange, part of self. All right. And from the hip hop group, you may know Channel Live, with the hit song, Mad Ism, right? And he's that one that, said what some of us can be familiar with. Maybe not everybody on this call, but some of us could be familiar with waking up in the morning with the yearning for Earl. All right. So give thanks to our brother Hakim Green. He's an MC, but more than that, he's an activist. He's an educator. He is a music businessman behind the scenes as well, dealing with A&R, and so on and so forth, helping people write and formulate hits and whatnot. His resume is really long and impressive. And so without further ado, I would like to welcome my brother Hakim Green. Welcome to all those in the viewing Black Boston audience.
Thank you, sir. It's an honor and privilege for me to be on this platform. I appreciate the invitation. This is dope for me. Thank you. Peace, Boston.
Peace.
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 All right. So first off, if you could tell us a little bit, about your history, just, well, right now, it's funny because, right now your new album, Aubrey, right, has the picture of you as a kid. Yeah. And we've seen this done before, the Nas album cover with him as a little boy, and Biggie with him as a little boy, and so on and so forth. But it's funny because these people who become these icons or these legends or these rap stars or whatever, they didn't come here from another planet. They were little kids too somewhere and grew up somewhere. So tell us a little bit about how you grew up and how you got involved in the hip hop.
Wow. So that's what this album Aubrey is really all about, coming up in hip hop, the sounds, the themes, the essence, just a celebration of hip hop culture before we called it hip hop culture. The culture really that, people in urban areas, be it New York City, East Orange, Boston, and the list goes on, it's just how we communicate, how we celebrate each other, how we come together. It expresses itself as hip hop, so watching, brothers rhyming in the park, I wanted to rhyme. I started writing my first little rhymes when I was 8, 9 years old, as a young boy. And then dancing was a big thing for me, so I was always into like dancing, break dancing. In Jersey, we big on house music, so I was definitely in the clubs with the house music heavy, and I was a background dancer for Naughty by Nature when they were called the New Style. Went to high school with those guys. I saw that group form basically in front of my eyes at our senior year talent show in 1986. I graduated in 87. Me and KG had homeroom together. Like Tretch and Vinny a year behind me, but just to really grow up in the culture, not even understanding what you're seeing as you're seeing it, how you're living it, not realizing this big multi-billion-dollar industry is being created through your life. It's amazing to 30, 40 years later look back and know that I was a part of something extremely special, and I was able to put my brick in the game, so to speak. Coming up in the late 80s, we groups like Boogie Down Productions, X Clan, Public Enemy, Rakim, Kane, just knowledge itself, cultural awareness, the just the soundtrack of blackness, the soundtrack of community, the soundtrack of, when you look at Yusef Hawkins and Public Enemy just rings off, or even with film, what Spike Lee was doing, with Do the Right Thing, the visual representation of what we were doing at home, in our neighborhoods, in our world, how racism impacted us, and then to be able to express it was something that was tremendous. So that was a big battery in my back to become a teacher, to share a lot of this knowledge that I was discovering through the music, through the cultural expression. I started an after-school program called Act Now with some friends of mine, African Children of Tomorrow Now. This is 1989, 1990. This is where my mind was at. And that's how I met KRS-One as an educator while he was doing lectures, Human Education Against Lies. And it's just amazing that cultural continuity between the music, what was going on in educational circles, what was going on in activist circles. It was just powerful. And to try to carry that through my own work as an artist is something I've always tried to maintain, that balance between, the entertainment industry, but in the community, doing the quote unquote real work, connecting with people doing the real work. Coming back to Newark, East Orange in 2010, got with Raz, who of course is the principal at Central High School at this point, and South Ward councilman. He was co-founder of an organization, or is co-founder of an organization called the Newark Anti-Violence Coalition. And I don't know if you know, like, they always say black people never protest black on black crime. All right, so for 5 years straight, every Wednesday, this organization would lock down a block in Newark, somewhere where there was some type of violence, gang violence, gun violence, domestic violence, police violence, lock down the block, and then call people to action, call people to get involved, call people to be more aware of, of just raising a higher vibration. And then just watching how they got down, it was like hip hop needs to play its part. And that's how 24 Hours of Peace got born. Just connected with my brother, Mayor Baraka Jr., who's chief of staff of the South Ward councilman at the time, now the mayor. Just helping them with their campaign, just being a support system, and them being a support system to hip hop as we push for peace. He ends up becoming the mayor, and now we have access to, some real resources to put something powerful together. And that's what 24 Hours of Peace has become over 13 years, something mega powerful. And it's a testament to hip hop culture. Like I say, real hip hop for the people. Because when we look at, like, just my short story, how I just went through my timeline, like how hip hop as a unifying force between people, being able to create something positive in their lives, whether it's business, ventures, clothing, all the way down to activism. Real hip hop for the people is art and culture that motivates the people to something better. And that's the latest single that I put out off this Aubrey album, Real Hip Hop for the People. And then, of course, Madism. When Madism rings off for the last 25 so years, you know what that's about. And again, the power of hip hop culture, making cannabis a viable business venture, seeing what cannabis is doing nationwide, becoming legal, and these, billion-dollar investments in the cannabis world, all these big brands in the cannabis world, and knowing that, Madism was a big part of opening the door. Hip hop was a big part of laying the cultural continuity, creating the market, so now these capitalists can take advantage. And again, real hip hop for the people is understanding our power, organizing our power, so we can capture that power. And that's the long and short of it.
Now it's interesting. You said a couple things in there I want to touch on. So, I'll start with the last thing first. So, the whole Madism thing. Of course, you didn't create the word ism, right?
No,
right.
No, not at all. No.
But you damn sure popularized it.
Mm-hmm.
And it almost reminds me of kind of like Lil Wayne with Bling Bling, right? Where, it came from this regional thing or whatever, but this song amplified it and really put it into the pop culture. I mean, people still say ism to this day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's funny. You should have trademarked it.
Well, what I did was I created a brand, which is the Heru symbol, and then the Madism is within that brand. So, I'm so much associated with Madism, the term, Channel Live, of course, KRS-One, that, when I show up, it's really Madism. And I have a brand that represents my movement and what I'm doing. But like, trademarking Madism is like the word itself is like trademarking Merry Christmas,
Right.
Happy
Yeah,
New
not
Year. I
yeah,
mean, it's,
yeah.
yeah,
I was just joking.
yeah.
But now too,
I thought about it though.
yeah, right,
It was on the table.
right. And another point too is and I thought it was important because people who associate you with KRS-One, you know, you didn't, you're a kid from East Orange. He's, Boogie Down Bronx, right? It ain't like y'all grew up together and, went to school together. You met him while you was already both on a conscious path,
Yeah.
right? And
Yes.
y'all met both doing some form of the work, right?
Yeah.
And then were able to meet, and then hence
Yes.
the hip hop.
Right. It was the relationship was built not off of music. It was built off of respect for, our activism, standing in education, what we represent on that level, and then him doing a lecture series with Leonard Jeffries, Dr. Leonard Jeffries, and he wanted me to open up that series, coming at education from a perspective of someone who's actually in it at the time. So we
And
did it.
talk
Mhm.
about your teaching years. How, like, what grades did you teach? Like, what did you teach?
Yeah, so I started out as a teacher's aide, right? And then once I had enough college credits to be a substitute, I was a sub. But because of a teacher shortage, I ended up with my own class load for a year and a half. Lesson plans, parent-teacher conferences, the whole 9 yards. Social studies and science, sixth, seventh, and eighth grade. So for the second 2 years, I did that. Um, and I taught at the same school that I attended as a kid,
Dope.
right? And the school itself was built in the early 70s as an experiment for like an open learning environment. So it was a school without walls, right? It was like free learning. So you had math going on over here, social studies going, English, and it's supposed to be a connection between all of the disciplines. So it's like universal learning. But there's a problem with that because when you're dealing with people who come from undisciplined homes, it's hard for them to be disciplined in school. So if there's a fight, you got 175 kids going to see the fight. Like when I was in junior high school, and we used to play garbage can basketball. I gotta go use the bathroom, and you go to the bathroom, you give your homie the nod in another classroom across the way. Y'all in the bathroom for 15 minutes playing garbage can basketball. That's not right. But that's so like that's what young people do. You have to kind of expect that young people want to be outside the bounds all the way. Anyway, knowing or having those experiences as a youngster helped me deal with my students when I was a teacher. Right. And, to this day, oh, you're my favorite teacher. It's our teacher who became a rapper. Oh, you're our favorite teacher. It's that type of thing. But the experiences, like seeing myself, which is what happened as a teacher, like 21, 22, 23, I'm seeing my 13-year-old self. And I had to come to some hard realizations about just the negativity that I was raised in, the reality I was raised in, and how it, affected me, which is probably what forced me to be so hard in terms of the music I choose to make, the message I choose to carry, my engagement with the community, and my encouragement on other artists to engage with the community. And, it's just in a more substantial way than just music and radio and video, and like touch down with folks. Like our experiences are valuable, positive and negative. It's like, it takes, it is, what do you say? It's smart to learn from your mistakes, but it's wise to learn from others. So a lot of these MCs and artists who are putting these messages out need to touch back down with their community to now explain the art, like really get into why they're thinking the way they're thinking and why their messaging is such, so we can kind of navigate better, not glorify it so much.
Thanks for that. All right, so
And cut me off if I go too long too, because I can talk.
oh yeah, no, yeah, and you in good company. So, what I just want to do is briefly also just touch on, you could have been kind of a one-trick pony, right? And be like, okay, so I'm the hip hop guy and I rap about weed. You know what I mean? Almost how it became like, I would say for Cypress Hill. It's synonymous and fine, known for the weed, but you also have branched out into various forms of media with podcasts, and not just, hey, we're smoking weed for the sake of weed on some, Cheech and Chong, bugging out stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but also talking about it from, the governmental repression, the criminal justice aspect, the entrepreneurial aspect now, the healing aspect, and then also doing some of your other endeavors, like, you also like to talk smack about sports, right?
Yeah.
And here we're in Boston. My guy C, who's on here, he's a member of a group. I am too. Sit and Talk Sports. In Boston is talk smack about sports. So, and and you're from New Jersey, which I don't know much about sports, but I do know that that's kind of a losing town. So
What?
yeah, you're talking to Boston. We championship city.
But
So
see, I'm from Jersey, so I guess I should be a Giants fan, but I grew up a Cowboy fan.
that's like double disappointment.
And with basketball, I'm wherever LeBron is. So right now, I'm a Laker fan.
Okay. Okay. Well, tell us a little bit about how you got into the various aspects of media and the cannabis industry. Obviously, the cannabis industry was kind of a no-brainer coming from the thing, but as cannabis opened up around the country, talk about how you went into that, and then also
Right.
expand into
So
these
the
various
cannabis
mediums.
story, right? So this is like 2012, right? I get with KRS, your favorite guy in the whole world, your favorite MC, and and
He's still number one.
I was doing my work in Newark. I was working with out of a youth center, the International Youth Organization. I was doing some programming there, thanks to Ras Baraka once again, who said, "Go that way, young man." I touched down with IYO, started doing workshops and community forums and all types of dope stuff. Right. Big shout out to Milton Conway, Booby. You already know what it is. All right, so I go get with Chris in the studio in the city, and he looks at me. Matter of fact, I got a suit tie on. I'm trying to, step my game up. Obviously the hip hop, the weed, all that's cool, but I want to change the brand. I need to, reinvent myself. And he goes, "Yo, why are you not in the cannabis industry? You playing yourself. You wilding." I'm like, "Yo, man, listen. I had to switch it up. I'm behind the scenes now. I'm doing stuff in Newark. I'm working with Raz. He's running for mayor. I can't be running around, bigging up the weed like that." He was like, "Man, I don't know what you talking about. You need to be on the first thing smoking in LA. You need to get in this cannabis world, and you need to open up shop, right?" So, but I had a plan, and I couldn't just relocate to LA. That wasn't in my plan. However, you know, I didn't need to, because cannabis is opening up everywhere, and the message resonates everywhere, and Jersey is legal now, and New York is legal now, and so forth and so on. Eventually Florida will be a totally legal state. Right now they have a medicinal program, and they're lax on it for the most part down here in South Florida. I know in Tampa it is kind of an open market there. Um, I want to say, where's the capital? In Tallahassee, there's an open market, I believe. So, it's happening. It's happening, and my focus is just establishing the brand Madism, just to reinforce its importance to the culture. So you can expect a line of cannabis products under the Madism brand. But go see us at madism.info, and you can see what we're about, as well as support us through the merchandise that we're selling, the t-shirts and hats and what have you. Madism.
Word up. And so just talk about then too the various, because you've really expanded on like YouTube and the social media and blah, 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 and
Right.
then the sports show,
Man, it's just what it's what we do. It's like the natural hip hop is not what we do, is how we do it, right? So no matter what we do, when you hip hop, that's going to be expressed. That's going to come across. Hip hop is going to recognize. They're going to tap in, right? So with technology being the way it is, it's easy to just hop on, be yourself, and talk about the things that you're comfortable with. So sports is something I've always been comfortable with talking about, especially basketball, football, baseball. When the Olympics come around, we talk about that. Tennis and golf is, definitely something we focus on more now. And I just think hip hop needs to be represented in all spaces, and that's what we provide as Madism, a place where hip hop, especially cannabis lovers, can come in and just relax and tap into hip hop, and that's what that's all about. So we have Madism Sports, and also I do a one-on-one interview platform, Madism TV, that's more of interview style, and we get down to the hard issues and the tough conversations, and just delve in as hip hop would. Uh-oh.
No, yeah, old man muted himself. So yeah, so now I want to get right into the violence thing. And now this is the portion where other folks, you'll be able to chime in and whatnot. I filled our brother in a little bit about what's been going on here in Boston, and it's funny too, because when you're living in a city like this and these things happen, you feel like, oh my goodness, these things happen. But I guarantee you, if you picked up any newspaper from any major city in the country, it's the same stuff. Within the past 3 months, they've had some young people shot. They've had some old people assaulted or shot. It's the same thing everywhere, and it goes in these waves and these cycles. Certain things we know are gonna look. We know that the summertime is gonna be off the chain. We know 4th of July something's gonna pop off. We know, Halloween something's gonna pop off. So all of this like violence, that we're feeling like we experience and we live through. Um, I want to just say it's not isolated and it's not special, unfortunately. Everybody everywhere is experiencing this, and some people to uh, more intense degrees than we are here in Boston. In many ways, it's crazy to say this in the middle of what we experience as a crisis, but in many ways, we're fortunate here in Boston. But in any event, to talk about the impact of hip hop. Now, see, with the violence, so you talked about when you met KRS, that was during his human education against lies thing, right? So stop the violence. I mean, self-destruction had already happened, right? Okay. So as most of us know, the first thing that we're going to think about in hip hop, even though there were iterations before, is the self-destruction movement and video, right? After that came, the Stop the Violence movement, came on. Then KRS got on his humanism thing, and that's the human education against lies, the heal, and all that. That's when they met. But there's always been a thread of hip hop being integral to hip hop. Here in Boston, our famous group, the Almighty RSO, and I was hoping our brother Antonio Twice would get on here. But our famous group, the Almighty RSO, after their, starting off in the hip hop, golden age era, and they've been around for decades or whatever, they came back, got some young folks from the community, and created a situation called Wise Guys, which unified. Up here in Boston, we don't really have gangs like that. We got like different streets and different like cliques, crews. It's too small and it's too isolated, really, like to be what it is in like Chicago or LA or Detroit or whatever. But all these different little blocks and streets and whatnot, projects and so on and so forth, they was able to organize and bring, I forget what it was. I want to say maybe like 12 different areas that were had beef and were feuding, and bring them together. And they put out a CD, made a group. They went on tour across the country. All sorts of stuff. Wise Guys, and they're still around to this day. And that was a portion of what went into what has been called up here the Boston Miracle, where In the 80s, there was so much violence. As you know, that's when Uzis came out and blah, 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 crack cocaine was hitting and everything. So in the 80s, it was the Wild West up here. And then in the 90s, folks were able to experience a lull in the violence, much of which the clergy and the politicians have taken credit for. When we get to that time, I want Brother Randy to really speak on this because the Nation of Islam is really written out of that story, and they're one of the unsung heroes because the Nation of Islam has always been doing work inside the prisons and outside the prisons, gang mediation, intervention, all of this type been going on since the doggone 60s. Come on.
Yeah.
So there's that. But between the Nation of Islam and what hip hop was able to achieve, that's the unsung part of what they call up here the Boston Miracle that was really able to address the violence. So with all that big long intro, I say that to say, what have your experiences been in hip hop being able to address, deal with the violence, and how did that bring you to 24 hours apiece?
Yeah. So like everybody needs a soundtrack. Like everybody listens to music. Music is so important to our lives, right? And everyone's searching for a soundtrack. And we used to have a soundtrack for folks who were tapped in to community, or there were artists focused on making that soundtrack, right? So I think as we get more artists who are relevant to what's going on today, creating a soundtrack for the experience of activism, peace, love, unity, safety, having fun, making that cool again. Just there's a pushback because in the 80s we were the weirdos, really, the rappers, the breakdancers, the cats that were into graffiti, into the arts. We were the weirdos. We weren't the hustlers. Not where I was from. Early, the hustlers didn't really get in until there was money to be made, and then it became a hustler thing, and then you see the narrative change. You see the cultural, just the trappings of what hip hop is considered change, and we've been stuck there. I think as we create more stages for positivity, it's just going to inspire other people to follow another path. We have to show positivity, conflict resolution. We have to create that space. Like, for instance, whether true or not, people say breakdancing was a way that conflict resolution got developed in Black community. Through the battle, through the competition. There's all, like, young folks need a rite of passage. They need a something that says you're a man now. It used to be this thing, now it's taking bodies. And how do we change that rite of passage when that's so ingrained in a lot of their experiences, the level of violence, taking a body, ops, I'm being targeted, I need to target somebody. It's a whole cultural shift that needs to happen. A lot of the lingo, it seems, a lot of the, it's like a war language, your ops. That's from war. Where are they getting that from? Video games. Video games is a part of the culture. Just is. Like, kids growing up on video games from really out the womb, having access to these images, these messages, the program. How do we reverse that? We need something that's going to trigger, no, we're not doing that anymore. We're doing this over here. And, I think hip hop could be a part of it, but it's going to take, as how Dead Press said, it's bigger than hip hop, Oh.
Yeah, I did it again. So, oops, I did it again. So, talk about some of the connections that you saw in some of the music when that change shifted, when because we've always fought, we've always had conflict and whatnot, but certainly hip hop over the years has taken on a more aggressive tone. And maybe you could talk about when you saw that shift occur.
Man, I mean, it's been shifting really for me since like 97, 98. Like just the commercialization of negative images and messages. It just became, once mainstream radio has embraced, can I use profanity here? Once mainstream platforms embrace nigga bitch mentality, it's a wrap. Like it used to be a time there was rules to the game. You couldn't say certain things. Radio station get penalized. All this fake radio edit where you chopping the first. Come on, man. I use Pro Tools. I know what it is. You chop the first sound of the first letter of the word. Come on, they know what it is. Kids are on a program. Like since actually, part of the reason why I became an MC was because I didn't like the program. I'm a school teacher in 90, 91, 92, 93, 94. Kids is coming to school with condoms on their shirt, condoms. Little girls, 12-year-old, 13-year-old. I'm like, yo, what's going on here? We need to provide another image of how I was inspired in 88, 89, 88, 89. I'm like, okay, I'm going to try to inspire kids the same way. So I'm having beefs really in the studio about the messaging because we were too educated. We were going to go over people's heads. So we had to dumb it down. Even Madism. Madism was us dumbing it down. I didn't like Madism because I thought it was too, we actually wrote the rhyme as a joke thinking that Chris was going to diss us and tell us, I just do it your way. But he ended up liking it and was like, when I got to wake up in the morning with the yearning for herbs, that was halfway down my verse. He turns the music off. Yo, you bugging! You wilding! What are you doing? So I'm like, what? You need to start your verse like that. I'm like, this fool, wake up in the morning, got the yearning for herb. That's like the dumbest thing I could say. And you want me to start my verse like that, right? But that was him going, I'm having my pushback from the label in terms of messaging and how like the different thing, they want me to be more gangster, more street. Y'all need to bust your gun, talk about smoking blunts. And I'm not going to say some other things that he said. But it wasn't what I was trying to do. It wasn't the message I was trying to get across. I'm trying to follow the footsteps of KRS-One, Chuck D, X-Clan. You know what I mean? That's what I want. That's what I represent. You know what I mean? But if you're trying to sell records, if you're trying to Mobb Deep, Mobb Deep was hot right then. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Mobb Deep was giving you busting your gun, smoking blunts.
Brother Randy, I see you unmuted. Did you want to add on something?
Absolutely. First of all, peace and blessings. Thank you, Jamal, for having this platform, and Hakim, man, it's an honor to be on here with you. Definitely a fan of your music. I think we was on a previous Zoom that we had with some of the city folks. Was that you on there? Talking about bringing the 24 hours of peace to Boston.
No, I wasn't on that Zoom.
Okay,
that might have been Tom.
Yeah, there was another conversation being had about us trying to make that happen. Okay. And I'm definitely with it. I wanted to chime in on a couple of things. One of the things that Jamal mentioned, and thank you for mentioning that, just dealing with the so-called miracle. And I love the way both of y'all brothers framed and phrased what you said, right? Because a lot of times people try to take credit for things that they didn't do, right? And sometimes some people try to take, like, say, if it wasn't for us, you know what I'm saying? Like all the credit. And the reality is that there's a multitude of things, you know what I mean? So like the way you blended in there talking about the wise guys and what was going on in hip hop at the time, and also what the work of the Nation of Islam around that time. I just want to say that it was multifaceted. There was a lot of things that was going on. One of the things that a lot of people don't talk about, which irks me to death, is how we ignore the Million Man March. Like literally the biggest event in our history, you know what I mean? Where you had 1.8 million black. If you wasn't there, you was alive and you was an adult in that time, you at least watched it. You know what I'm saying? Like it affected your life in one way or the other if you was of age. But to see all of black people coming together across denominational lines, you had all the civil rights icons, Martin Luther King's wife, Coretta Scott King there, Betty Shabazz, the wife of Malcolm X. You had Maya Angelou, Rosa Parks, of course, the nation, like everybody, a who's who of Black America came together, Bloods, Crips, you know what I'm saying, Gangster Disciples, East, West, North, South, young, old, Christian, Muslim, like we did the thing, you know what I mean? And it was the most peaceful event. But it irks me that folks act like that didn't happen. Folks act like you didn't see what you saw. You know what I'm saying? And, the impact of what the Million Man March had on the culture and what it had on us as a people. You know what I mean? Because when we talk about the Boston Miracle, we talking about, the late 90s. If you look at the early 90s up into 94, I think 94 was the year that had the most homicides. I think it was like 150 homicides or close to that in that 1 year, and it didn't stop turning until after that, right? And then we seen it decrease in 95 and 96, and it kept decreasing, right? So I interject that it was the spirit of the Million Man March, because it didn't just happen in Boston. In Philly, the murder rate dropped, in LA, in New York, in DC, this happened across all of our communities. So I just wanted to interject that folks act like we didn't see what we saw and are scared to talk about what happened that absolutely impacted the culture and changed the narrative. Now I want to shift to what son Hakim was talking about, which is, another point that I wanted to speak on. I think that hip hop is absolutely integral in us changing the culture. Hip hop is so influential. Like hip hop led me to the Nation of Islam. And my leader and teacher, the Honorable Minister Ras Baraka, he said that one hip hop record is more powerful than 10,000 of his lectures. You know what I mean? And I had to pause and think about that, because to me, he's the most powerful speaker. You know what I'm saying? Like one of his lectures changed my life. But he said that one rap song is more powerful than 10,000 of his lectures. And I have to really try to wrap my mind around that, but it just talks about the influence of the artist. Like, I'm old enough to remember how hip hop literally changed everything about us. Crisscross came around, everybody want to wear their pants backwards. You know what I'm saying? The Gumby came in, everybody wearing the Gumby. You know what I'm saying? Like as hip hop goes, so does everyone. LL starts wearing one leg up, you know what I'm saying, and one leg down. Everybody want to do that. 50 Cents come out with the wave cap. Now everybody's rocking. Like, so we've seen this. We've seen the influence of hip hop. We were wearing baggy jeans and Timbs. Now the rappers are wearing skinny jeans and tight skinny jeans hanging off their butt. So whatever the rappers do, right, particularly in our community, young folks replicate and emulate that. So we can't deny the power and the influence of hip hop. And absolutely, there has been a negative impact as of late. Since the late 90s, or since the 90s, I should say. With the emergence of gangster rap and all of that, there's been a pivot, and we've seen the impact of that pivot in the community. So I think that we have to change the culture now. And I want to say that I'm not saying that it's all hip hop. And so as you said, Hakim, it's not, video games is a part of the culture, and that's real. That was a beautiful analogy how you talked about the arts, because that's language, and they are picking this up from the video games. So that's part of the culture. But we'll be fooling ourselves not to believe that hip hop and the lyrics and the content is not part of the culture, and that's the part that we have to impact. Last point I'll make is, I'm with the 24 hours of power. Definitely of peace. Want to see that we have to engage in changing the culture. And I'm calling on all of the OGs, the street dudes. I did prison ministry for about 28 years, in all the prisons in Massachusetts. And I got a chance to meet, brothers behind a wall in the hardest prisons in Massachusetts. Brothers is doing natural life bids. I got to meet a lot of my peers from the 90s that actually got caught for doing the gangster stuff. You understand what I'm saying? Who was sitting in jail, sitting on natural life bids, some of them second degrees, some of them doing 10, 15, 20 years, right? I got a chance to meet those dudes and know them really, really well and watch them grow and change their mentality because they got older and wiser, right? And realize that the streets lied and that the game is rigged, and know that the game is rigged, and actually have experienced that the game is rigged, right? I'm calling on those brothers and the brothers that's in the streets that survived that era, that know that the game is rigged. See, what irks me also is that there's some artists that are promoting the gangster culture, the drug dealing culture, right? As if it is a lucrative, viable option. And the reality is that when we are in that game, it's a losing game and we're losing all the time and we're failing. And I take it even a degree further. And I say that for us as Black men going into that culture, into the drug culture, into the gangster culture, we playing ourselves and we really going out like suckers because the game is rigged against us and we're losing. Our community's losing. And the only one that's winning from that is our real open enemy. And so I need the OGs, the brothers that realize that, to come out and be able to say that and speak to the young people. We have to begin the process of changing the narrative. There's not a silver bullet, but I think that if we all start to speak on it, and there's a lot of other things that we can do, but we have to engage in that work because just as it was shifted to negativity, we can shift it back and change that reality. Now, that's not to say that all the violence is going to stop and there's never going to be no more shooting. There's never that, right? There's never a silver bullet. But if we can decrease it and change the course of it, because we don't really see this degree of genocide among other cultures, where other cultures celebrate killing their own people. You know, so that's what I want to say, brother. Thank you.
All right, let me interject this. Let me interject this point to ponder. Hakim.
But before you go in, just to give you a heads up, I got a movie date at 8:15. I'm going to see Till. So
okay, all right. You mean you got 15 more? You got 15 more minutes before you leave?
Yes.
All right, cool. We good. Okay. All right, cool. So what I want to say and interject was there's a curse somewhat of conscious music. There is, but there isn't. So on the one hand, people say, you know, the industry says we ain't gonna deal with that because the consciousness doesn't sell. But when it has happened, you know, Public Enemy was a multi-platinum group. Right. Lauryn Hill, multi-platinum. You know what I mean? When stuff comes out, Most Def in them, maybe not platinum, but certainly gold. So a lot of times the conscious is actually popular. Dead Prez in them. Dead Prez's song became the theme song of Dave Chappelle.
Right.
You know, so what do you think that there is where like we just ain't captured that lightning in the bottle?
All right, so success is relative, right? And we see certain, like Madism was a big record, relatively speaking. If you compared it to the biggest records of that year, it wasn't really that big of a record. A lot of times there's a regional hit or there's a hit with a niche market, and because we're in that market, that's all we see. That's all we hear. So we go outside the bubble, you realize the effect wasn't as big as you thought it was, right? Now, the other thing is when you have a conscious artist or somebody who's woke or somebody who's, you know, on a certain vibration, there's always a chance of them rocking the boat, right? So you're not ever really looking to empower somebody that's going to rock the boat because then that upsets the apple cart, right?
Yeah.
So you come across these people every once in a while, something pops, but it's just only a matter of time before the finances walk away from it. And that's not a bad thing though, because like it's like if you're always asking for something and there's strings attached, stop asking for it. Well, we keep going back, and then so let me put it to you like this. I have a song on this project called Stolen Art, right? And it's about how they took our music from us. And the answer is because we wasn't on our dean. Point blank. We got off on other things, and they came in and took it from us. The people who control our reality see us a certain way. And they only want us, those of us, who are going to reinforce the way they see us. So those people are, those gatekeepers, those filters get put in places to keep the narrative going. It's not a conspiracy, but it is. But it's almost like, well, how would you run your family? How would you run your house? How would you run if you own something, how would you run it? Would you let people come in and be like, you know you this, you know you that, you know you the third, man, take that out there. I'm not gonna give you the knife to cut my throat. I'm not gonna do that. And the enemy ain't gonna do it either. That's not on them. That's on us.
That's right.
That's on us. So until we get our act together and create finances for ourselves where we don't have to answer to them, until that point, we should be respectful in how we deal with them. You can't do the deal, don't read the contract, then where they do that at? On the block. If you go on the block and you go do a deal on the block, and a week later you go down the block down here and find out you could have got a better deal here, you don't get mad at that person. That's on you. You're supposed to do your due diligence. You're supposed to do your... So when you understand who controls their thing, you realize this is why it looks like that.
Absolutely.
All right, so let me ask this, and particularly now because time is short. So let's just get off into straight tangible things that you think, and I'm glad that the conversation has been happening, and we'll keep going after he goes. We can continue on our own discussion, but share with us some tangible strategies that you think can be adopted in Boston, that you've employed in 24 hours apiece there, and knowing that hopefully it's going to happen, and this thing will come here as well. Share with us some tangible.
So 24 hours apiece, love, unity, safety, having fun is all about positive reinforcement through arts and culture. That's what it is. That's the festival concert. It's also a character development program, Build Your Skills, where we focus on transferable skills using hip hop culture. When I say transferable skills, there's ways of looking at all of the things that our young people are attracted to within the culture. Basketball, for instance. There are techniques, there are strategies, there are skill sets that exist on the basketball court that are transferable to everyday life skills that has nothing to do with bouncing a basketball. There's, when we get to the essence of hip hop culture, the cipher, battling, just the things that make hip hop what it is. You like the MC? Well, maybe you want to be a public speaker. Maybe you want to represent an issue. Maybe you want to be a writer and put language behind ideas that write legislation. You want to be a DJ? Or maybe you want to be a sound engineer that does sound design for all the many usages of a sound engineer. You want to be a graffiti artist? Or maybe you want to be a set designer. You want to be a fashion designer. You want to be a so forth. We have all of these examples of success. We need to get them in front of the young people to share these experiences with them so young people can not only learn about hip hop, but learn actual skills that are transferable in their everyday life. Also, conflict resolution and critical thinking. Very important skill sets that we have to nurture in young folks. Being able to critically think is a skill set that we just assume human beings have the ability to think their way out of circumstances. And developing critical thinking will allow people to think their way out of their circumstances. And we have to focus more on that. We can use the culture in doing so. 24 hours apiece.
All right, y'all. We got our last like 5 minutes. with our brother here. Anybody got any questions real quick?
I just want to say thank you. My name's Yvette. We produce a hip hop festival in Somerville, and we've been doing it for the last 8 years. And our platform is, anybody, any age, but the music has to be clean. And so a lot of the individuals that are on this call, I've met over that platform. And I think you're exactly right. Everything you're talking about is what we need to take charge and put in front of our kids. Utilize the spaces that we already have, the venues that are free, the libraries, and engage and let them create these grants and projects to help us show the kids engineering, coding, all of that flows together, transferable skills.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Salute.
Give thanks, sis. Anybody else?
Real quick, does the name Daniel Davis ring a bell?
Wow. Offhand, not offhand, but probably should, I guess.
Yeah, no, that was one of the names of the brothers we was on the Zoom talking about. We're thinking about bringing the 24 hours of peace to Boston by next spring.
Okay, yes, it sounds good. It sounds good. I say that was probably Tom on the call.
Okay.
And so I'm gonna follow up with Tom, let him know we had this conversation. Tom is gonna be at the event on the 11th. And then, whoever needs to be there, hopefully they'll be in the building and we could talk more about how to bring 24 hours of peace to Boston, for sure.
Yes, sir.
All right, and not for nothing too, as I said, we got our sister on here from the city of Boston. I've also, sent this off to other people from the city of Boston as well. So everybody should be aware. Hopefully everybody comes through the event and, can actually, shake your hand and meet you and all that good stuff. And we can make it happen. And not only the 24 hours of peace, but a working relationship. I would like to say sister cities, but they usually do that with people outside of the country. But a working relationship between Boston and Newark, New Jersey, would be ideal.
Yeah, we can easily make that happen. We just set up a meeting with Chief Mayor Baraka Jr., who's the chief of staff for the mayor, and we're looking to take this on the road. So he's all ears.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I want to add real quick, man. That's a positive move. If we can sit with them, I wanted to add something too because I mentioned earlier. I knew Amity and Ahi from camp, but they got another sister named Shawnee that I went to college with. That was a monster on the basketball court.
Yeah, she was murdered.
Yes. So R.I.P. to Shawnee.
Yeah,
powerful sister. She was a trailblazer. And I know they actually have a community center in Newark named after her too.
Shawnee Baraka Center.
Yeah. So much respect, but to be able to make that connection between Newark and Boston is important because what's interesting, both our cities actually are the same size. We have the same amount of people in both cities.
Crazy.
So it's an interesting fact. But just around any programming around education, around entrepreneurship, obviously around the violence prevention stuff, it's a good opportunity to connect. And I actually have another I got another cousin of mine out there, Shaheem Holloway, who's the coach for Seton Hall. He just was at St. Peter's and went on a crazy run. He got Jersey in a headlock. They love him. They love him right now.
Yeah.
So that's another connection we can all make.
Tap in. Hell yeah.
Yeah, to tap in. So we're gonna connect through Maul for sure. And I'll say this too, like Jamal's music, your music, like y'all both would have blew up if y'all had switched lanes and went that whole, shibbity doo out route, because y'all, two of the best MCs, out here doing it still.
Salute. Well, I actually want to share something with y'all if I can before I break out.
Yeah.
All right. Something out of nothing, the culture grew from breaks, boys with fat laces helping DJs carry crates. 12 inches with the name covered up, 45s wrapped in tape, needle dropping on the get down part on the one, never late. The moonwalk looked like skates, time is infinite like the 8, build to destroy the devil's world, God body at the gate. In God we trust, in dollars we lust, catching crumbs off the cake, now we bop to a beat of walls of concrete in northern state. It was 88, we was victims of a scheme. It was all just a dream, now my homie is a fiend. We live for the culture, but we kill for the cream, trying to make the street light up, stay on your toes, Billie Jean. It's like hip to the hibbit, flow liquid like exhibit. Here to create the culture with every breath as I live it. They try to prohibit, but I'm the master to pivot. No gimmicks on point like a digit. I'm like Malcolm ready to rock it. Get your hand out my pocket. Everybody the gatekeeper, but y'all forgot to lock it. Swear by culture freedom, I got more vice than Tubbs and Crockett. Now my boy Elroy out the space like Spacely Sprockets. Truth be told, we was crushed from the cold. Niggas getting high off the dust from Sugar Hill. Now the truth gets sold with strippers on the pole. Delight just with rappers for the thrill. Getting a rush from off one pill when Flash was on the wheels. Singing white lines with my brothers and folding bills. Slinging white dimes when Uncle Joe wrote that bill around the same time, fucking around with Hillary and Bill. It was Co and Tell. Now y'all go and tell. Hop on the gram. Look, show and tell. No ethics and no codes, just cut the pie out of mode. Spinning red whites now lights the block like a strobe. Behold, the pale horse as he rode. Here to bring death with guns to unload. Conspiracy to conspire is a theory on the wire when Cohen is a priest whose doctrine is the liar. Here to rob the hood, I keep it tucked like the friar. Grew into a man following rappers I admire. No more b-boys in the cypher, no more DJs catching breaks. Now everybody in the trap with 45s black with tape. The culture has been raped, pimped out, and straight slutted. Just like the Bronx in the 70s, everything gutted, crusted, rusted, busted and disgusted. We should have shut it down when Chuck said not to trust it. That's stolen art.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We need that on something, on one of these streaming channels. We can play that.
Wow, it's on YouTube, it's on Amazon, it's on my new album, Aubrey. Okay. You can go cop that right now, and the whole album at HakimGreen.com. HakimGreen.com. Go get the Aubrey album featuring Carl Thomas, KRS-One, Jamal's favorite rapper. I got CeeLo Green, I got Freeway, I got Malik Youssef, Amiri Baraka Jr.'s on there spitting bars, and I got Do It All Kelly from the Lords of the Underground, now West Ward councilman for the city of Newark, New Jersey. Hip hop in the building. NG Simone, KRS-One's wife.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
Fire.
All right, and as y'all know, Hakim will be here next week on the 11th, Veterans Day, Friday. He'll be here in the building down Hibernian Hall. Thank you, brother, for coming and sharing your knowledge and experience with us. We're gonna keep it going and keep a discussion going and keep building. Thank you for that, brother. And I'm sure you about to head to the movies with your beautiful wife.
Go see Till. On my way to see Till. Go see Till and go vote.
And that's another part of hip hop where this brother is not only MC, activist, scholar, and all that too, but he's also a dutiful husband and a family man.
Yeah.
So another reason I respect and got love for you, my brother.
My man, love you too, brother. Salute everybody. Right. Peace.
Yes, sir. Peace.
Jamal.
Yes, indeed.
So that was peace, right? So since he left us off with a freestyle, you're gonna have to start us off with a freestyle from Uno the Prophet before.
Right. He gotta bring something back. Counter that.
We want Uno the Prophet. We want Uno the Prophet.
Look, my memory ain't good like his.
He was reading off the notes though. He was online with it.
Okay, nah, I can't do it. I will give
play something then. I know you got something on.
I know you know what the verses from White Cheese.
And I'll play something in a minute. But I will give you this one thing. I will say this from one of my rhymes where I say basically I live only an hour away from where Plymouth landed on us, and ever since I live less than an hour away from where Plymouth landed on us. Nope. I keep messing it up. I live less than an hour away from where Plymouth Rock landed on us. And ever since we've been hitting at it. And ever since we've been chipping at it, smoking the dust. So that's my only lyric I got.
Now. One bar. That's all right.
My memory ain't on the spot it used to be. All right. So now I want to build on, open it up obviously for discussion, build on what was said, and really talk about, the usage of hip hop in being able to address the violence from a preventative point of view for the young kids, giving them other things to do, from an intervention point of view, from being able to deal with some gang mediation and direct interventions, and also just changing the, you know, the substance of a lot of what we're talking about in hip hop and what we're supporting. And this can go on into, you know, our treatment of, you know, because it's not just violence, it's our treatment of women, it's our, you know, materialism, or, you know, all sorts of things, you know, that we can get into that drivel down into this, to the conversation of violence. But yeah, let's open this up for discussion, and just anybody draw anything from that, and let's talk about how are folks excited. Could we bring 24 hours of peace here? What? Let's go.
I had a question about 24 hours of peace, and which I don't know if, I feel like it can still be asked and answered, but like when he was talking about the transferable skills, I really liked that part, and I feel like that's something that is necessary. My question though is like, how do you because I feel like there's been a lot of initiatives, programs, things to engage young people, but how do you create like longevity and maintain the relationship with them so that you can actually observe their growth? Because even when I was younger, like there were so many programs, there was Project Hip Hop and this program and that program, but I guess I'm curious about why those things weren't consistent to where we could see them, you know, 10 years later. And I don't know what happened with those programs, so I feel like maybe it's a thing of doing research and connecting with those people to see what led to them dissolving. But I'm just curious about that because I feel like there's just been so many programs. What is necessary to have something that can last?
So if I could, just without going super political and, you know, let me just say this. What ends up happening in the beginning is when people decide that a thing is a thing. So they say, okay, there needs to be, I don't know, after school support for kids, which yeah, should there be after school support for kids? Absolutely. And then there's this government, you know, $2 million for after school support for kids. And then like goldfish who go to the top of the water to get the little things, all of those people who go up there, you know, to get the little things, but these are not necessarily the best suited people to deliver that program. So there's a grab for funds for whatever the new thing is, you know, early education, after school education, teenagers, you know, substance abuse, whatever it is. As soon as the money is announced in those fields, there becomes a segment of people who now are going to go chase that. And that would be fine, except for what they're good at is writing grants. They're not necessarily good at the thing that they talk about. So for instance, I would love to teach a class of kids, you know, spoken word poetry, hip hop, you know, sarcasm, whatever, right? But unfortunately, nobody is like ding donging at my bell for that. And I see a lot of stuff, and not just myself, but other people that I know who are fantastic in what they do. And every time we've had an opportunity to engage with young people, you know, they're like, whoa, mind's blown, right? But it's not, as you said, sustainable. So people like me are brought in as like a featured guest. So I might go to a school one time in a year. But then the rest of the year, the kids are stuck with Mr. Lackluster here, who, you know, is not tickling their brains and expanding their minds and so on and so forth. And so once again, these people are getting paid to educate the children or have a program where these kids come, but that doesn't mean that they got the best program. And this is why it needs to be opened up to other people who are actually, you know, not only good at what they do, but can also make it cool and fun and enjoyable too. Got to have some swag. Somebody else, please.
Yeah, I wanted to chime in on that. I think excellent question. I think that, you know, we have to look at everything that we talked about, the violence, you know, programs and the transferable skills. We got to look at everything, I think, interrelated, right? It's all interrelated. And at the bottom, you know, to answer your question, I think that, you know, and Jamal, when you started speaking, you said the government brings out a grant, right? And as long as we're waiting or looking for, right, the government to give us money to do something or to fund something or to sustain something, it's never going to be sustainable. We have to develop our own capability to create our own systems. And that's when we have ownership over what we control, because we produced it, then it will be sustainable. And I think that that's the work that we got to get into. So hip hop is very influential. I love the conversation, Jamal, you know, and I think that it's time that we create a movement, you know, and we've seen, again, like I said, hip hop has created many movements, right? It does it all the time, you know, but it can't just be hip hop. And I think that this bringing this 24 hours of peace to Boston, we're working toward doing it, but we've developed a 7-point program that I think we have to look at as a people, particularly when we want to talk about stopping the violence and that whole thing. The violence doesn't exist in and of itself. The violence is a byproduct of social engineering, and the violence is a byproduct of failed social systems, right? And so 7 points that we develop, I'll run through them real quick. One, we have to change the culture, because there does exist a culture, a self-destructive genocidal culture. We have to engage in conflict mediation because the culture has produced a lot of conflict. There's a lot of beefs, and we have to educate our people on how do we resolve beef, because every beef doesn't have to end with someone getting shot, murdered, stabbed. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's other ways that we can resolve conflict. So we got to engage in conflict mediation to resolve some of this drama. So change the culture, conflict mediation, unite the hood, right? We're more powerful as a unit. And this is one thing that our adversaries have figured out that we still haven't figured out. Everything that our adversaries have done, they came over here and formed the 13 colonies and gangbanged against the Native Americans. They grew and started the United States of America. They established the United Nations, the United Kingdom. Everything they do is uniting. Even in corporate, you see mergers taking place all the time, because people realize that in unity, right, we're bigger, we're stronger, we could get more accomplished. We as a people have to get to that. In our hoods, we got to understand, we got to unite the hood. Third, let's get money together, right? We can get money, and we have to teach those skills. We have to teach our people how to get money off of, not necessarily off of the underground economy of selling coke, heroin, fentanyl, robbing and stealing. Like, there's other ways that we can get money. We have to teach entrepreneurship. And if we're united, right, then we start spending money with each other. We start owning businesses. We really got to be about that. Once we get in this money, and we got to do it together, right? I'll support your business, you support my business, right? Each hood has their own business, and everybody goes to that hood. Like, one hood owns a sneaker store. All the other hoods go to that hood to get their sneakers. Another hood owns a clothing store. Everybody go to that other hood, and we're going to buy our clothes from there. Another hood owns a grocery store. We all got to get milk and cereal, water, right? We're going to go to that hood's grocery store. And we start thinking like that, developing businesses and working together, supporting each other. Then we get money together. As we get money together, we could then enter into political power. A lot of times we try to go after political power without having economic power. So we end up with symbol without substance, because our politicians are controlled from outside our community, because we don't have the finances to back them. So at the end of the day, they got to dance to whoever's paying for them, right? So, but if we focus on getting this money together, we have economic power, then we go after political power. And after we have political power, we can change some of these unjust, corrupt laws that's disenfranchising us, and then we could free the slaves. So that's a seven-step program to empower our community, to empower the hood. And I think that there's 24 hours of peace and getting conscious artists involved and getting the OGs involved to change the narrative. You know, we have to create a movement to make this a reality. And that's about self-empowerment And when we are involved in self-empowerment, then the sustainability, because it's not relegated on somebody outside our community, the government or anybody else, on keeping it sustainable.
Okay,
That is so true, Randy.
Priscilla, hold on. Let me just add on this point right quick, and then I'll get right to you, please. I just want to say, so as the brother Hakim said too, they never gonna hand you the knife to cut their throat.
That's right.
So oftentimes too, when you look at, well, why aren't these things working? Because oftentimes the government, the nonprofit industrial complex, the philanthropy world, they invest in stuff that they know is not going to work. Right? Because if stuff is like, if your mission is to save the Black babies and you're actually effective, you can expect to not be funded.
That's right.
But if you got a thing that is called Save the Black Babies, and after 20 years, you ain't got Black saved baby the first to show for it, right? You're good. They're going to keep cutting them checks. And so a lot of times, some of the things that have been established for us are dysfunctional in themselves and on purpose. They reward dysfunction and they shun the actual people who have a track record of productivity, tangibles, and so on. And the other thing I just wanted to say, Priscilla, just because I wanted to get it off while it's on my brain. Yes, Brother Randy, anything we do, anybody that thinks, because this is why, look, Public Enemy was out, Self-Destruction was out. It didn't solve, remember all the R&B singers, We Are the World, they did,
right.
Is It Only Christmas? Feed the Children. Right. It don't solve nothing. A song, a hip hop, a R&B, it ain't gonna do nothing unless we are standing on some foundational principles. And so, for instance, Randy tried to trick y'all a little bit. Let me tell you about Randy's trick. He just told y'all 7 principles, but them 7 principles is the same principles as what the Muslims want. It's the same, it's based off of the same thing, because the same thing from the Muslims 10-point program is the same thing from the Black Panthers 10-point program. That's where the Black Panthers actually got it from, by the way. Which then the new Black Panther Party adopted. Up here, we got the preachers, they got the 10-point coalition. Where'd they get that idea from? Back to the thing, because at the end of the day, what is it? We want decent housing. We want a decent place to live. Right. We want to be secure, peaceful, safe, with a place where we can have land and our families and so on and so forth. So what I'm saying is, what it gets down to, whether it's the 10-point program or 7, it all boils down, what he's saying in hip hop, peace, love, unity, and having fun. It's all the same thing. It boils down to the same nuggets. That's what I'm saying. So hopefully we can connect all of those dots with like-minded individuals, because I don't believe in unity. I don't believe in unity, right? I believe in like-mindedness. We're never gonna get everybody on board. We got to take those that we want, shut the shutters of the ark, and sail off to a new destination. That's it. Please, Sister Priscilla, go ahead, please.
So I was going to say, like what Randy was saying is definitely true. We as Black people, we have to learn how to pool our resources, because we have a lot of resources. So I know there's a trust issue with us, but we have to get beyond that. Because as long as this trust issue among us, as long as we can't come together to do co-op living, co-op jobs, things like that, that is where we need to head to. And so I came in late, but I did appreciate what he was saying. And I love the idea of 24-hour peace, because that's what we want. We're tired of burying our babies. We're tired of walking by all these construction sites and none of us are on them. We're tired of being gentrified out of our neighborhoods. And so because we're being gentrified so bad and so far out that it's hard to come back. But all those folks that are living in Brockton and Randolph and Lowell and Lawrence, and a lot of them are right here from Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan. But they can't afford to live there anymore. There's programs that can be done to help this situation. Just like all those abandoned properties they have in Boston, right? The city owns a lot of properties, right? They're always writing grants for different things. Why don't they write some grants to have those homes refurbished so that people can live in them? People returning home, veterans, young folks that are being aged out of DCF. I don't know. I don't think, I'm just going to be honest. I don't think Michelle Wu has common sense, because some of the stuff that she's doing, it doesn't make any sense. And so that's why we as a people, we have to come together. I know you don't believe in unity, but like the Bible said, whosoever will, let them come. And we just have to move forward. We can't let nobody stop us. You're in the middle. I'm an OG. So you're right at the age, you and Randy are right at the age where we need to be gathering our 16, 17, 18-year-olds and teaching them. That's why I started my educational institute, to teach young folks how to run for office, how to organize, how to raise money, because we need it. And we need to take our kids out of these stupid Boston public schools. Why can't we teach our own kids?
Okay, so now on that point, so kids need, in my opinion, kids need to go to school. But for years, people such as myself, who was a child of the Elmer Lewis School, I was a child of the free schools back in the day. There's nothing stopping us from having a Saturday school, right? And we see on the national level people who I consider to be frauds, people like a Dr. Umar of the world, who've been talking about building a school forever, and I know people who have schools all across the country. It doesn't take that much. And if we started whatever we're gonna do, to me, like when you had your academy, teaching young people or whatever, great. I don't know how you got your young people or whatever, but these are the things that need to go on. The Panthers always did political education classes, because before we talk about people trying to get people to vote, some people don't know what a city councilor from a state representative, nothing. And particularly now with these new quote unquote offices that are coming in, certainly nobody was paying attention to Secretary of State before this, or auditor or whatever. So there's a level of education that we have to do, I believe, first off, to actually get us to a place where we can then move together. Brother, you ain't got to raise your hand. Go ahead.
I just didn't want to cut your wisdom. That's all. I'm trying to be respectful. No, I wanted to ask you this question, right? And just to have a dialogue. You said you don't believe in unity. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that the Jewish people have unity?
No, no, I don't. And I know enough of them to tell you they don't. So
follow up. So what do you attribute, right, the backlash that we're seeing on Ye, on Kyrie Irving, on Nick Cannon, on anyone that just speaks their opinion, not talking about hurting or killing nobody, but just says, Black people are the original Jews, it breaks down the dictionary definition of anti-Semitism, right? And then they get a backlash, they lose all their money, they get kicked out, they get suspended. Like, to what do we attribute that? And let me say this, and I'll let you answer it, right? Because I see certain Jewish people that are not necessarily religious Jewish people, like Vlad, right? Vlad at one point admitted to eating pork, like he was not a practicing Jew, right? But he's on code, right? And so whenever anyone crosses their gun line, whatever that is, you see them moving as one to eliminate that threat. So whatever we call that, if that's not unity, we need something. We need that.
Okay. So that's easy. So yeah, no, they don't all move together. In the video, one of the clips that was released, Steve Rifkin was in the building when all this was going down and whatnot. I mean, so what do you see with the Jewish people that have that? What you see is a lot of people don't know this. So of course, people are familiar on the Black side with like the Panthers and Deacons for Defense, groups that actually stood up and like, would deal with self-defense issues. Well, the Jewish community had something like that with the JDL, the Jewish Defense League, and they were the most boisterous of all the groups back in the 80s. They was kind of like the what's the dudes with the red berets? The good
Guardian,
the
Guardian Angels.
Yeah, the Guardian Angels. They was like that. So they was patrolling the Jewish communities and whatnot. And if they caught you, I mean, it wasn't just, they were going to blow a little whistle or something. You catch a beat down. and they was handling people who they, so what I'm saying is you have segments of the Jewish community who are gung-ho. And so when you see that type of pushback from it, you're seeing that from the gung-ho segment, but that ain't everybody. A lot of them don't give a doggone. They don't care. As you said, they're what we could say secular Jews, or they just, that's not their focus. But yeah, I think almost it's a stereotype almost to think the Jews have a unity and move as one. They do not. Just like we do.
One thing, their money stays in their community about 17 days. All these other nationalities and stuff, money stays within their community. Our money goes out the door. We need to learn how to pool our resources. We can have little black markets, Ujama markets. We can do a lot of different things to bring money back into our own hands.
I don't want to
the mall buying a $300 Coach bag and you ain't got $10 to put in it. I mean, some of the stuff just doesn't make any sense.
I'm definitely down with Black economics and all that. But what I will tell you though is a lot of the stuff that we hold to as gospel is myth, and it was developed in decades ago. Let me say it was developed decades ago. So, for instance, the whole thing about how Jewish money circulates in their own community, right? And our, whatever it is, I forget what it was. $1 in our community goes around like once before it leaves, and $1 in their community circulates like I think 33 times or whatever before it leaves or whatever. That's those are very old statistics. Not saying it's what I'm saying is I do not know. So,
but, okay. I'll cut you off. I just want to say this real quick before I forget. Well, look at the Chinese folks. They sell us hair, Chinese food, dollar stores, and none of us work in them. You mean tell me their money ain't going around and around and around?
This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about. We have to be very specific. So first of all, when you say Chinese people sell hair,
well, Asian,
huh?
Okay,
so that's what I mean. So now we're switching it to Koreans. Okay, we have to be very specific because this is what happens, I believe, a lot of times. And so to me, it's like grabbing at straws. So we could be like, yo, well, the Dominicans, they do this and to me, what we need to focus on is what we are doing and what we are not doing. So hold on, let me just before this, let me give you a great example. And this should be an example where nobody has like nothing. So there was a great business when I was a kid that I always loved. And in the days of Touch FM, Brother Charles, and the business came back. I was so excited. I was like, oh, it's back. Oh, I can't wait. They're about to open again. Oh, I dedicated my services for free. Called them people up, was like, man, listen, I'll do your graphics for you for free. Oh, I was like, I'll do your graphics. They was like, how much it costs? I was like, man, nothing. I do it for free, man. I love y'all, man. I did the whole menu, the whole thing. That was Walekum Burgers. Now, how do you have a business that is beloved, a childhood memory of everybody in the hood? They come back, the product is great. Great burgers. Way better than a Wahlburger. Great burgers. Great chicken wing, all that stuff they had in there was good stuff. I did the menu. The menu was dope. They brought back all the stuff that we loved as kids, the Frankenburger and the Wolfenstein and the mummy wrap and all that stuff, that they were known for. They had branding, everything. Couldn't maintain open because Black community does not even support something that we love. People look, if Ma Dixon's came back, you know she'd go out of business, right? So what I'm saying is we talk this, but we don't support. And the fact of the matter is, what's our most beloved sneaker stores in our community? Alpha and Omega, down Dudley, and the other one in Common Square. Both Asian brothers and sisters. Ain't nothing wrong with it, but I'm just saying, like, do we got a black sneaker store? Or did we skip out? Because what I'm saying is, a lot of times I believe if we don't have an alternative to go, other people are doing well. The Flames family, they doing well. They done popped up everywhere. This is what I used to talk about with my drug dealing brothers on Humboldt Avenue back in the day. We all had money, and people be like, yo, this one, that one. When Mr. Utley's got closed and the liquor store got closed, everybody was mad. They was like, man, these Puerto Ricans are taking over. I said, first of all, those are not Puerto Ricans, those are Dominicans. That's number one. Know who you're mad at. Second of all, why are you mad? You should be asking Poppy what's popping, okay? Because we've been out here for 20 years and don't own a popsicle stand, okay? So there's something that is dysfunctional in us in both our ability, or not our ability, our desire to start businesses, and then certainly a collective problem, because even if you had a business that's an A1 dope bit, are people banging down the door at Soleil's? Black business. So what I'm saying is, we got to fix us.
Yeah, let me chime in on that. Two things, right? So I hate generalizations, right? Because you could always get an outlier, right? So to say like all Jewish people are united, of course not. There's always going to be an outlier. But to deny that there's a sense of unity, of love, of what you're just talking about, right? There's a certain appreciation, respect, and love for their culture and their people, where they support each other, like what you were just saying we don't have. Like, that's real, right? And this is where I was saying that, you know, we have to look at this as a holistic approach. And you're right, we are a destroyed people. We have been destroyed. We've been robbed of our names, language, culture, God, religion, history, identity, and never been fixed. And any time that there was a leader who would stand up to teach us some of that knowledge of ourselves and try to give us that historical context and bring us back in Black empowerment, whenever our leaders would stand up to do that, they would get gunned down, they would get assassinated, they would get locked up, right? So we were destroyed. And then when we try to repair ourselves, we would get killed, we would get locked up, they would break it down. So we was oppressed, repressed, and now suppressed, right? So that produces the reality of that, of the dysfunctionality of what you're talking about, where we have such a lack of love of self that we won't even support our own businesses, even if it's a business that we love, like you expressed with Walakum, is a service that you like, that the community said they like, but didn't support. So that's why I say we have to have a holistic approach. It's not just the rapper, it's not just the this, it's not just the that. We have to engage holistically in changing the current reality of the culture that exists among us as a people, right? So that we can empower ourselves, right? And change that. And I know that, again, I don't like to speak in extremes because it's always outliers, but we have to see the value in working in unity, working collectively. You know what I'm saying? There may be another word there. There may be another word there.
Collaboration.
I was gonna say too, changing the focus, because let me edit a little bit what I said, because we do actually have unity and we do have things in certain moments, but oftentimes it's for the part of me, it's for the dumb shit. So for instance, I tell you a great day of unity we about to experience on November 11th, and I'm not talking about the event that I'm doing. I'm talking about the Black Panther movie is about to come out, Black Panther Part 2, Wakanda. And Negroes is about to go crazy from coast to coast around the world. They're going to be wearing tacky dashikis made in, foreign lands and, all sorts of things. They're going to be dressed up as costumes. It ain't Halloween. They love Wakanda. They don't give a damn about or even know about Uganda, the real place. You know, so it gets real funky, but we zone in on certain moments. And I remember, like, you remember back when American Idol was really a thing. Remember when Ruben Studdard was on there, boy? All Black America was behind. I don't see, once again, not all Black America, but a large majority of that was feeling that Ruben Studdard electricity, or when Obama came, you know, Obama.
See, those are those times, Jamal, where we are where it's acceptable, right? Where the powers that be give us license, right, to be united, where there's no fear of backlash, you know what I'm saying, for us, for our unity, you know.
And oftentimes, why too? Because it makes them money. We support Wakanda, Black Panther, which is really Disney, ka-ching.
Yeah.
You know, so they know what it is. Yeah, get your Black African fix, but come see this dope man. Okay. And see, and so let me tell you this too, on the Jewish thing. And not for nothing, as you know, I've been talking about doing this forum, as I've done.
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah, so it's definitely coming up now. As soon as I'm done with this Hakim thing, I'm trying to pick a date with the local ADL and all this type of thing to do the relationship on Blacks and Jews. My thing with the whole Jewish thing is, I feel Jews get a bad rap because, and I used to say this when I was in the new Black Panther Party. So, okay, Jews are horrible. They control this, they control that. Okay, great. So what about the English, the French, the Spanish, the Portuguese? Because as far as I know, even with the Jewish involvement in slavery, right? They dealt as merchants, shipbuilders, what have you. But I mean, like there were no slave ships that were going to Israel, or like you understand what I'm saying? Like this was I don't know. I believe that sometimes our focus on Jewish people lets Europeans, traditional Europeans, off the hook. And those traditional Europeans are the same ones who gave the Jews hell too.
All right, but let me say this, Jamal, right? Two things, right? So I don't think that people, like, let's look at the recent narrative with Kyrie Irving. He didn't say all Jewish people are horrible, da, 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 da. He's seen a movie he liked about Yahweh, and he tweeted, right? Then the storm comes, right? And he got to be basically, you know what I'm saying, dragged out, forced to apologize, get suspended. That's what people are talking about. It's not, people are not saying, well, they are horrible. It's that right there. It's you know, Ye talks about, who, he was working with, who controls certain labels and certain narratives and certain things, right? And 1 second, and the fact that, so they stripped this man multi-billion dollars, Gap deal, Adidas deal, stopped his music, came out and said, yo, we don't chase, our bank don't even want his money no more, right? Because he was saying that that he's a Jew, that Black people are Jews, among other things, right? But here's the point that I'm trying to get to. I don't think no one is saying that they are horrible people, they're bad. What people like Kyrie Irving, like Ye and others, right, is their inordinate power and control, that if you speak truth, like you said, white people had slave ships, right? Europeans did this, we say that all day and night. No one gets mad. But if I say Jews, like The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, that book, matter of fact, by the way, if you go on to Amazon right now and try to look up The Secret Relationship Between Blacks and Jews, that book right now is selling for $2,500. That's the book put out by The Nation.
Is it really?
It's going right now for $2,500.
I'm about to sell my copy.
Wait,
come on.
You could get it at Frugal for $20. So
of course, but no, listen to the point I'm making. The point I'm making
buy
is
10 and sell them on Amazon.
the point I'm making is this: they corner the market, bro. You know what I'm saying? But why is that book? Why are they trying to? Why is it that that book is going for 2,500? Someone want to make sure that no one gets it.
Okay.
And why? Because in that book, Jamal, in that book, it outlines, see what you just said, like, you know, there wasn't no slave ships going to Israel. Well, back before, you know, when chattel slavery was legal, right, was the law of the land, Israel, the state of Israel didn't exist, right? But the fact of the matter is that there were many of Jews that in fact were part of the slave dealing, slave selling business. And that's what that book exposed, right? So, you know, it's just a lot of people don't have some of the historical knowledge. And if anyone says it, right, not saying that we hate them, but this is just part of it. Just like we say that the Europeans, the British were involved in the slave trade. There were Muslims involved in the slave trade. There was Africans involved in the slave trade. We can say that, and no one's gonna say we anti-black or anti-Muslim or anti-white for saying that. It's just a matter of historical fact. But if we say that Jews were involved, then we get blackballed. No one can deal with us, and that's where the problem lies in that narrative.
So I do believe that they've established a powerful lobby, both with the actual lobby, political lobby, APAC and AIPAC, as well as the ADL. I definitely believe that, and I definitely believe those who, like, once again, the gung-ho, you know, the warriors. Yeah, they're not taking no shorts. They're not allowing anybody to say anything. But I say for us, once again, because we're not organized to that level. So let's say that I think that most people would think that what represents Black people nationally is like the NAACP, which of course in and of itself is not even a Black organization, but oftentimes they will speak out on these things. But if something happens, like if a basketball coach, you know, called Kyrie, get back, man, you know, I'm sick of this N-word or whatever. He also too would face some condemnation. You know, I don't know. Once again, I haven't looked at the data, but now, particularly with cancel culture, people you know, can definitely get canceled for all sorts of things. One thing I could say with Kyrie Irving and Kanye, and this is unfortunate, is that people think that these people are smart. So I think that that's one of the big things. And me, in my old age, I'm becoming more of an intellectual elitist. Kyrie Irving shouldn't even have Twitter, okay? I'm one of those people who do believe in kind of the shut up and dribble. You know, because, you know, you're not a person who understands social issues. You don't understand geopolitics or whatever. So if you saw a movie on Amazon that you liked, yeah, put it on your little watch list. Don't tweet it, you know, shut up. You know, I mean, and not for nothing, this very same thing could have happened to him if he would have posted a Farrakhan speech or a Marcus Garvey speech or what. Like, it almost doesn't matter. But the point, at least for me, is that a lot of these things that are now getting discussed are being discussed because they're thrust into the public arena by people who are not capable of these intellectual arguments. I mean, like, that's all he got. He saw a video on Amazon. Okay, great. You know, and for me, as both a Black nationalist and a Pan-Africanist, you know, also, and as a Rastafarian, you know, when I pray at night, I pray, you know, to Jehovah God, you know, El Shaddai, Adonai, Elohim, all of this. So, you know, I certainly understand the connection of, you know, I guess what we call Judaism and its African roots. You know, one of my mentors, of course, is Runoko Rashidi, rest in peace. And the work of, you know, people like Dr. John Henrik Clarke and all this type of thing. I came up on this. So I get it. But I think that many of these people who have now thrusted into the public arena are not qualified to speak on it. And therefore, that's why it gets garbled, and also too, and if I was them, yeah, I wouldn't say nothing. Just for this type of reason. Just be quiet. Write a book later after you're retired. Nobody really cares.
So who do we depend on to stand up and speak out, Black man? And do you believe in solidarity? This is
solidarity amongst like minds. And when you say who do we depend on to stand up, certainly not athletes and entertainers. So if we're looking for leadership from there, we're doomed. Yeah, no, I mean there's various groups, as another one of my elders said, Kwame Ture, organize, organize, organize. And to paraphrase that with some, modern slang, get in where you fit in. So, everything is like local. I think, heroes amongst us, we gonna save us. And I don't, not even I don't think, I know for a fact that our leadership is not going to come from entertainers and athletes, and certainly also too, and none of these YouTubians either.
Okay, so when we watch the news and we see these individuals step forward and they call themselves community leaders, do they live in the same reality that we live in? And if they don't live in that same reality, who is stepping forward? Because I hear a lot of people are not agreeing with these people of color, Black people, who are stepping forward and calling themselves leader, but no one else is stepping forward. And I believe because a lot of Black people just aren't showing up. Do you believe that's part of the problem?
Yeah, so I mean, it's complicated. So first of all, are you in Boston?
Yes, sir, I am.
Okay. All right. So great example. So for instance, I've organized for a long time in Boston. I've been active since I've been a teenager. And before that, I mean, I coined the term Blackstonian because Black Bostonians smushed together, right? My mama from here, my grandmama from here, all this type of stuff. So I've been around for a while, verifiable, fact checkable, all that stuff. But a lot of people don't know me, even though I'm quote unquote very well known. But a lot of people don't know me. And I don't allow my ego to assume everybody knows what I'm doing or what I've done, or, I could do something today and folks don't know nothing about it, or whatever, to expect people to remember something from 20 years ago. So all I'm saying is, this is to get in where you fit in. You got to find the pockets of like-minded individuals where you're at, and find out what motivates you. If it's politics, then you get in with that little political, group. If it's feeding people and farming and urban agriculture, then you get in with that group. If it's self-defense and weapons training, then you get in with that group. If it's the cannabis code, you get my point. So that to me is where you're gonna find the best thing. But also too, you also have to be cognizant too, because there's a lot of shit in the game. And this is really what has messed it up, because it's almost like, if you're familiar with church, if you've ever experienced like church people, what have you, somebody goes to church, grows up in church, has a bad experience. And now they're like, fuck church, screw God. See, I couldn't even say F God. Screw God. And they throw the whole thing out because they had a bad experience in church. But they didn't have a bad experience with God, or that you had a bad experience with some funky little, you know what I'm saying? Some funky little no do-gooder that you came across. But yet you're willing to throw away the whole concept of church, religion, God, everything out because of that bad experience. It happens like that a lot too, with us in organizing in the movement.
Mm-hmm.
You spend your time in something that don't pan out. You find out the leadership was fraudulent, or they don't spend your little, your little dollars on something else that they told you it was going to, or whatever. You find out that they're, their mouth don't match their life. You know, these are things that turn people off. So I am admittingly jaded, because trust me, I'm jaded. This is why normally I work, I don't want to say by myself, but I work with a very small segment of people I know and trust and I'm able to work with. And I know that their character, their integrity, their, you know what I mean? And this is based on a track record. Now, once again, to use a church analogy.
But they have to, but not to cut you off, but they have to have merit, right? You have to build trust.
Exactly.
Right? Everything's trial and error, right? So going back to when you was talking about the cannabis industry, because I work in agriculture also, work with small farmers. And a lot of times, a lot of businesses don't succeed, especially Black people business don't succeed because we believe our definition of success is the same as our counterparts. And that is what's being sold to us right now. And this is 360 all the way around. And that's not the case, right? I don't know if you ever started a business or not, but I've started a business. And a lot of times when Black people start a business, we look for our immediate family and friends to help us. And a lot of Black people feel as though this stigma that if I reach outside the box and work with individuals who don't look like us, then I'm what's the word? I'm a sellout, right? I'm not with the community. But a lot of times you have to understand, you have to do business outside the box. And then when you do good business, like you said, a business that's shut down in the Black community, do business outside and then come back and spread the gospel. But a lot of Black people aren't doing that. And that's why we're seeing that happen to Kyrie. A lot of Black people are speaking out against him instead of picking up the phone and calling that Black man and having that conversation, because we can all learn from each other. But Black people prefer to get on social media and get on all these channels and talk down on one another and say, this ain't working, and call somebody ignorant. Nobody has the right to call any person of color ignorant, stupid, or anything demeaning. We need power, and the power is in each other. That's why we have to build. It's gonna like music, and we're here talking about music, and God was talking about rap music. Rap music is a way for us to communicate, but it isn't going to be the start. It isn't going to be the end. It's going to be in our communities. That is where the fight is. And it's going to end in our community. So we have to be influence as much as we possibly can. Thank you.
Absolutely. I was just going to say this point, going back to a church example, is that yes, while it is trial and error, and while we have to be discerning and whatnot about people who coming in, because people such as myself, you know, lost a lot of trust and you've been burned a bunch of times, but we also can't be so shut off that we don't let nobody in. Because in Christianity, the whole thing, I'm not a Christian. I just use this as an example, but the whole thing is witnessing and testimony, right? So you're trying to bring people into your church, right? So when they get there, you can't be like, oh, you ain't nothing, because you're gonna chase them out. You know, it's like a nightclub promoter that's passing out flyers. It's like, hey man, here, let me give you this flyer, but don't come, man. This is really bullshit. You don't want to come in. You know what I mean? You're working against yourself. You know, we want to bring new recruits, right? But at the same time, we also have to be cautious because of what has happened over the years. Groups, of course, as you know, like the Black Panthers, Nation of Islam, any organization that's done anything has levels of infiltration, levels of distraction, all of these type of things, and just human, the regular old rigmarole, human stuff, you know what I mean, that gets in the way. So we have to be vigilant and whatnot. And this is why I say, for me, trying to really organize with other like-minded people and whatnot. And the only other point I want to say, and then open this back up for other people, I just disagree with that. Nobody has a right to call anybody stupid or ignorant or whatever. Once again, I just called myself an intellectual elitist. And what I mean by that, because that's really me cracking on myself, but I really do mean that. What I mean by that is, if you've ever heard somebody who talks about a subject, oh, no, let me just do this because this is a better example. back on that show in Living Color, when Damon Wayans used to do that famous character, be like, yes, if I can introduce you to my colostomy of my constipation, then we can move and we could get reparations. Ooh, pardon me, I meant preparation, H. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sorry, but there are people who just consistently muck up facts, consistently get information and then filter it out wrongly. And these are people who have a problem with, you know, there's cognitive problems there, and not that they should be ridiculed, like when you say nobody calls somebody, you know, stupid, or, you know, I don't mean like that, like stupid, like, no, I'm not saying like that. No, that's wrong, right? But I'm talking about people understanding that you can't be the college professor in economics if you flunked out of economics. If you don't understand economics, you can't teach the class. And that's unfortunately what's happening a lot now that I see. It's like what happened in the rap. You could just raise your hand and say, I'm a rapper, I'm a poet, I'm an activist, I'm a leader. And, you know, and that's unfortunately counterproductive, because organizing is actually a science, and you know, revolution is actually a thing, and a movement is actually a thing. And if folks say that they care about it, they should study it and know what they're talking about. So that's it. Let's open it up for other people. Talk back.
Well, Jamal, I want to ask you what your event on the 11th, what time and where's it at and all that stuff with Hakim.
Okay, that's Hibernian Hall, and it's going on 6:30, like doors open really 7. So it's going 7 to 11 on November 11th, Hibernian Hall. Hold on right quick, I'm gonna get a flyer. But yeah, Hibernian Hall. Oh, no, I'll do better than that. Let me put in this chat right here. What is the doggone thing? But it's a cannabis panel and performance. So first is going to be a panel on cannabis, and, you know, basically from a Black perspective in terms of us getting in the industry. A lot of the people there, well, everyone there, are people who are in the industry. Oh, for instance, like, you know Chief from Mattapan, right?
I seen Chief recently, and I think he told me about this event.
Yeah,
I
so
think
he's on the panel.
Yeah, I think, yeah. Oh, I think it was another. Did you have another one there? Did you have one before this?
I had an event with Dr. Akinyele Umoja on the 19th.
Right, I was at that one.
Yeah, he was at that one. Yeah, this one is the cannabis one, and so that we're gonna have the panel first, and then do the performance. And I got a lot of people performing. Sister Kiara's on here. Her DJ name is DJ Troy Frost. She'll be one of the DJs there. Got a lot of my there you go. Got a lot of my I keep calling them young folks. They're grown men now. They were around me when they're 16. Now they're in their 30s. But the folks from Scope Music, a lot of their folks are coming through performing. So yeah, it's gonna be a whole, you know, shindig, get down. And now for nothing, Brother Randy, if you're still listening, I'll send you a message anyway. I know you might have went off because you're probably in Chicago. But hopefully there'll be some brothers available too. I know you do the patrols in the community, so hopefully y'all could be in that vicinity that evening as well. And we'll have folks as well, you know, on security detail, and, you know, making sure sisters get back and forth from the parking lot and all that good stuff. You know.
Jamal.
Yes, indeed.
This is Lorraine. How you doing?
Peace. How you doing?
I'm fine. I can't stay, and I didn't know about this till just now and I posted it when I heard about it before I came on my Facebook page.
Yes, indeed.
There's a couple of questions. One of them is all this money, this Biden money for reconstruction is and retrofitting and all that's coming through, and that's, you know, that's wonderful. A lot of people gonna get a lot of jobs. So now, in order to get these jobs, you have to pass a urine test. And in order to pass the urine test, you can't smoke weed or take any other drugs. So now, what I've been finding is that there are a lot of folks who have become, shall we say, I won't say sedated, and they are self-medicating, and they're not taking care of business the way they should, which means they're not taking care of, particularly the men who are not taking care of their children, but they are self-sedated. So now, is that an issue that you see in the community? Because it's an issue that I see where I live, and it's rampant.
There's been bums since the beginning of time, sure. And suckers gonna do what suckers do. I mean, I don't know any grown man who thinks like me where that's been an issue. I mean, and certainly not with marijuana. And before that, marijuana, I mean, liquor's always been around. I mean, somebody who's, not dealing with their children, there's something deeper going on. You know what I mean? That's a mountain of marijuana wouldn't keep me from my child. But, so that's just me.
But I see a lot of young people. I mean,
yeah, once again, I mean, so
I see people going to work at 6 in the morning and you can smell them before you see them.
I mean, and I think unfortunately that's been attributed to the legalization of marijuana, and that's not so, because I can tell you that in 1985, when I was a young teenager going to Mario Umana, we smoked every morning before we got on the bus, and drank vodka and gin too, by the way, or at least I did, before we went to school then. So all I'm saying is, and if you remember back in the days when people used to smoke reefer on the bus and on the train.
I remember them days. I grew up in the Bronx. Yeah,
there you go. So all I'm
I
saying
remember
is
all of that.
yeah. So all I'm saying is it's nothing new. So it's
I
nothing
hear
to be
you.
criminalized.
It's not new, but now it's another barrier to keep us from employment.
Well, okay, so there's
I
two
don't
things on that. Anybody, a lot of people I know who smoke weed and then they're like, yo, I applied for a job at the T. They stop smoking weed if that's what they want to do. Because now they're going to the job at the T. If they don't, then they don't, and they don't get the job. That's, real world life.
So now in that message to the young folk to help change the culture, to be more responsible and have more critical thinking and try to introduce civic responsibility along with within the perimeters of civic engagement and civics lessons and financial literacy, and trying to rebuild a community and creating institutions that will not just challenge that will challenge their thinking, and they will come through with an actual education and ability to critically think politically, socially, economically, financially, and perhaps be drawn in through the rap, hip hop. Rap has turned into something else. Rap has taken over hip hop and it's turned into something else, just like dance hall is taking over reggae. I do see the correlation there. But what my question is, in this trying to rebuild the culture, how are we addressing, what is your vision of how this should be addressed? Because everybody can't smoke weed, just like everybody can't drink liquor.
No, I mean, you just said it. I mean, that's the reality.
But how is that message going to be promoted in a way so it's not so people don't run from the message or they don't feel
you're talking about at this event?
No, I'm sorry. I'm not at the event, but just talking about rebuilding a culture and a community, because it's not just Boston. I'm not in Boston. I'm in another state, and I go through 2 or 3 states every day, and I see this pervasive. It's frightening.
Yeah, it's promoted just like that. I mean, so for instance, somebody like me, like when I knew you, when we worked together, I was smoking weed then. I didn't come to work high. I didn't smoke at work or whatever like that. I smoked after work. And, for me, it's like having common sense and knowing that no youth that I've been around, if I've been like, hey, kid, first thing, here's what you do, smoke a joint. That's the furthest thing from anybody that I know who's responsible. these things don't even come up. Now, as I deal with, men who are, still young, but now grown, and they come to me and ask me a question. Hey, I'm trying to get this job or whatever. Really, I don't even get that a lot, because most of them, if they're going for a job that requires them to have a drug test or something, most of them have the common sense to handle that beforehand by refraining or weaning themselves off whatever they're doing. And also, too, another point is that just, like you're talking about this industry where people have to get drug tested and all that, there's also a larger industry where people don't have to get drug tested. And particularly now that it's becoming legal more and more, and people are now becoming more educated about, the minimal effects of marijuana, that, more and more employers don't require a drug test, unless, of course, you're an Amtrak conductor or a, Greyhound bus driver
Or
or
working
a plane pilot.
construction.
Right, or working in construction or whatever. But also, too, I can tell you this too, just, reality. So do we think that every construction driver, airplane pilot, bus driver, everybody doesn't smoke weed? Because I'm telling you, they do. So
I hear you, but the ones that are not gonna go to school, they don't seem motivated to do anything, and now we got money coming through. How are we gonna, and Priscilla, please chime in. How do you grab a hold of that imagination and funnel it over to get a job? It's $25 an hour where I am to stand there and hold a damn sign. In Boston, they want the police to do that instead, and so all that money gets sucked into the police department. But in other states and other places, there's money, and if it can be done in other places, it can also be done in Boston. So what I guess I'm not asking you to I'm not trying to put you on the spot, make you seem like you're supposed to solve all problems of work. I was listening, and as I was listening, I'm getting these ideas, and it's just resonating where we are right now, because a lot of us have given up. A lot of us want to sit in the corner. A lot of us don't want to think too hard.
But not for nothing.
That's the herd, and that's becoming too big of a herd for me to be settled.
But this is the point about, to me, like minds. We're not a young man, or anybody for that matter, and Yvette, I'll get right to you, a young man or anybody for that matter, who is super not motivated or really super motivated to go the other way, you ain't gonna turn that one around. So what I'm saying is, when I focus my energy on like-minded people who want to get it. The young man that wants to get employment is going to do and take the necessary proper steps to get to employment. At least for me, I try to deal, once again, with like-minded people, because, trying to go against the grain, you're gonna burn yourself out. Sister Yvette.
All right, thank you. So I just, I'm sorry I had to step away earlier. So I don't know if you all discussed this. When we were talking about, funding and funds that are available out there, we don't want to, there's money within the community, but those funds are available for all of us as well, right? So Priscilla, I think you mentioned that you do training, and I don't know if it's training for writing grants, but have we created like a think tank for grant writers, to where a few of us can be together, where we're constantly looking for the funds that are available, and then find ways to utilize these young kids that are able to think about what they want to see, what they would like to see in their community. Because if we're able to point out funds, I bet these kids are able to write grants with support and structure, right? And that's, I think, how we keep these kids motivated, right? And once we find, get them on that path, then yes, we have to go back, find a way to, I think some of the kids want is an opportunity to really interact with OGs, not be judged or anything. They really want to learn from each other, But so many times, I think some of the younger kids are, felt as, they're making this music, that this, that, and the other. Well, our parents didn't like our music either, right? So how do we really build this so that way we're talking? Because we know that too many men were swept up, taken out of the homes, placed in jail. We all know that a lot of them were there wrongly convicted. And these kids, I think sometimes are looking back and saying, how did y'all let that happen to my uncle or my family or this or that? And now we're at a place where we're pointing our fingers at them. So how do we really look for this money? The money is out there, the funding is out there. Funding, you find these jobs, people that need work, and then you take the funding and put it there. So I think it feels like the first place, and I'm over here. I know Boston is sometimes a little cliquish, so it's really hard to be sincere about something and really find those people that are like-minded to say, let's take the next step. So it's like, what is the next step from this? The money is there. There's a lot of smart people around here. There's enough people that see ARPA money's coming into all of the cities. All of the cities are getting ARPA money. So we should have one template that for each of these cities, somebody's writing a grant where we're bringing in money, because there's enough organizations that are already doing stuff. But do we have a list of those organizations? Do we have we really spent the time to say, okay, out of the 8 people that are on the call, what's the name of your organization? And go through the line and have a database. We want to do that. We're meeting at Roxbury. You may have seen those flyers on November 15th. I'm working with DJ Black. But the goal is to, how do we create a list of these organizations that are doing all this stuff? Priscilla, what you're doing. Jamal,
So-
I don't know you, Matthew, but agriculture is hot right now. There's money through the NSF for, wheat, the genomics on the wheat. There's money right now that it's on a rolling submission schedule. So it's like, how do we pull these smart people together and say, let's start writing grants. Let's teach our replacements.
So one thing I would say is that we have given grant workshops. We've done 2. I work with a woman called Andrea Payne. So we've done 2 of those where we train folks how to write grants. And we actually it's been a couple of years since we did one. However, I feel like, so we have a lot of people, right, that work on housing issues, right? Education, police reform, health, all these different, and you may have 5 or 10 organizations that's doing similar work. My thing is, if we could collaborate with each other, right, and work, so the people that work in health, they come together. The people that work around jobs, they come together. Housing, whatever it is that folks are working on, and they have similar work, similar organizing skills or whatever. I feel like we should be able to write the grants and be able to go to the Kellogg's Foundation, the MacArthur Foundation, because we don't go outside of Boston. People just apply for grants with the Heinz Foundation, the Boston Foundation, the Women's Fund, TSNE, the Lenny Zakem, and they only have but a certain amount of money.
Exactly.
And you got so many organizations, and I feel like some of these organizations should maybe merge and work together. And so I've been saying this for a long time. And I mean, I had an organization that I worked at. I started for 10 years, BG, but I'm no longer there. But also I have helped with create other organizations. The thing about it is that we have to be focused. We just, we need people to do the research for us. We should be having college students come in and help us do the research to get that big money, because the money is there. Everybody keeps saying the money. Where is it? I want to see it. And so that's what we have to, there's the mass culture. They're giving out all types of grants for arts and culture. And that's another whole thing, the arts and culture field, So I think that me, Minister Randy, and the Nubian Foundation, we've been trying to have meetings, trying to bring, folks together to be like-minded. We got an election next week, trying to hold these city councilors accountable and stuff. And so we don't even know the real history of the Black Political Task Force. Me, myself, and I don't. I'm switching gears now. But we need something here in Boston where we can hold our elected officials accountable. And we also need we need to be able to reach out to them, talk to them, have conversations with them. We got to go to the State House and talk to China Tyler and Liz Miranda and the other what's his name, Russell Holmes. We have to talk to these people because they can put line items in for us, but it takes a long time. Sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't.
Okay,
Right. So I'm sorry, but you know what? Sometimes we put, they get elected. They may not have got elected by you, but that's there. We don't have to pause just because we haven't been able to talk to them. They're not going to be the ones that are going to sign that grant. So I mean, I'm just putting the question on the table. How can we start a grant writing think tank? I'd love to be part of that, and it would. I talked to the guys over at Scope. These young guys, they know about writing grants. They're doing so much hot stuff over there at Scope. I mean, they're doing stuff, right? And I see them doing it. And I hear everybody else talking about where's the money. The money is there, but everybody's talking about where's the money. So, there are people right now that are thinking outside the box. Agriculture is a big thing right now. It's about, a grant is a grant, basically, regardless what you write the grant about, right? Because you can take somebody that's got an English major and really make sure that the grant is written up so that way so that you can fill in the slots, like whatever Jamal may be doing, Matthew, whatever you're doing, you still have the grant, you have the language, and then it's falling in the scope and the specifics, right? So how do we start? I would just love to figure out, how do we start?
Okay, so let me just say this. So as Priscilla said, and I've met with that lady before, she's very say her name again, Priscilla.
Andrea Payne.
Yeah. So she knows her stuff, and let me just tell you, in my experience, so I'm a revolutionary. I'm grassroots. So every time I've tried to enter into that nonprofit world or the world of philanthropy, really hasn't panned out for me. In all my years of doing some stuff, since I've been 17, and I hit a peak early. I met Mandela when I was 19. You know what I mean? It's hard to top. In all that years, Boston Foundation gave me $3,000 one time for one of those newspapers I did. I think it was 3 Strikes. I worked with a couple of nonprofits when the folks were doing like Jobs Not Jails. Then recently, Greater Grove Hall, Ed Gaskin gave me money for that mural. But once again, that didn't even cover the mural. That was just like, he gave me like $2,000. The whole thing probably cost about $8,000. But anyway, so long story short, what did Black people do before nonprofits existed, before there were grants? So I just don't, y'all have said a couple times, everybody talking about the money, money, money. Everybody, well, in my world, everybody's not talking about the money. My young brothers from Scope, if you met the white guy, Jake. So
Jake.
Yeah, Scope.
Slim.
Yeah, Jake, the white kid.
Well, if the curly head dude, yes, I met him, and also Slim.
Yeah. Okay, so what I'm saying, Jake started Scope, right?
Okay.
Back in the day. This kid was around me when he was like 16 years old. He comes from his own world. His parents were already on their own revolutionary stuff, You dig? Like two JP lesbian women who already got their own thing. So he already came into the movement. When he got around me, he learned different things. He got into political prisoners, you know, Black Panthers more, and so on and so forth. You know, and as young men, when they began their business, and then, you know, now where it's grown to, I just don't want you to think, because while they do write grants, that ain't what pay for a lot of what they do. They doing a lot of that, and they've been doing it before they got grants. You know what
Yes,
I mean?
I agree with you on that. But I'm just talking about the fact that you have these young men at this age that are doing that.
Yo, absolutely. But also too, and then that's another thing, a whole other thing I can get into about perpetual youth and, you know, the social retardation of Black men. And also too, let's also understand, and this is why I try to stop calling them my youth, because, you know, them dudes is like 30, 36 years old now. You know that? You know what I mean? So
Yeah,
now
but they're still younger than you, Jamal. They still your youth because they're younger than you.
yeah, but I'm not gonna do to what, look, people call me youth to this day. I'm about to be 52 in January. At some point, people got to grow up. These are grown men. These people now have children. They have businesses. Some of them are on their way to home ownership and all that. And I got to respect and salute that. I can't keep them in Pampers forever. They can't forever be my youth. At some point, they already have progressed to, you know, my peers, my comrades. They're no longer, I'm not the camp counselor, and these are my little camp kids. You know what I mean? Which at one point it was that. Oh, and Lorraine, to your point, these young men, when they was around me, they were not allowed to drink liquor, smoke weed, all this type of stuff. Certain things I kept, but they was up in the house watching documentaries on Matulu Shakur and the Move organization, and, you know, Marcus Garvey, and they was getting indoctrinated. I mean, I could have started a cult if I wanted to. They was getting.
That's what's up. That's
You know
what's
what I mean?
up. That's what we need now.
Yeah. Yeah. And so this still goes on. The problem is, at least for me, I haven't bumped into the young Jake, right? Again, I haven't found another 17-year-old that is interested in building websites for political prisoners and all this type of stuff. And if y'all got them, please send them my way, for sure. For sure. But now it is becoming, you know, and while I'm an old guy, I'm still a cool old guy, still bust rhymes, I still, you know, all that type of thing. So it ain't like so old fuddy-duddy, but now we used to say, you know, whatever, the work is many, but the workers are few, or talk about, you know, the toiling in the vineyard.
The harvest is plenty, but the laborers are few.
There you go. Well, now the harvest is few and the laborers are fewer. So now
That's what I was talking about.
Yes, we got
exactly what I was talking about.
We got more to compete with and whatnot, and cats is not interested. And why? Because it ain't sexy. You know, Black Panther days, it was cool to be awake. Some portions of the 90s, it was cool to be awake. Now it's becoming less cool. Let's take Boston. Look, let's use your boy as an example. Single guy, eligible bachelor. I mean, I'm not hideous, I don't think. You know, I've been around since I'm a young guy. You know, people know me. I've been ran for office, blah, 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 blah. Why ain't my stuff popping? What
does that mean, popping?
Okay, so look, I blasted, I have over, I have almost the max on Facebook friends, 5,000 friends. I have an email list with about 1,000 people on it. I have about 1,000 people on my Facebook group, another like 500 on my page. This went out to all them things. Not only this, but before that, the Dr. Akinyele thing as well. We maxed out tonight at 10 people. So sometimes, and I was telling Sister Kiara this earlier today, and I'm glad Minister Randy is gone, but I'll share this with him later. So let's say I'm a great salesman, nothing wrong with my sales pitches or tactics or nothing, consummate salesman. And I have a great product, best quality, finest you'll ever get. But I'm a pork salesman in a Muslim country. So I got a great product.
That's a good one.
But people just do not want it. They don't want it. And here, selling consciousness in Boston, pushing consciousness in Boston is like selling pork in a Muslim country.
Right, but there's no money to be made. That because there's not, I think sometimes that there are a lot of artists that wish they could make different kind of music, but there's nobody that's going to buy their music. There's nobody that's going to be even interested. I mean, let's put together more events where artists have to not swear, or, you know, if they do say it, cuss, it has to be part of the story, right? And then you may see some of those artists say, oh, you know what? Somebody's finally interested in hearing that, right? And I mean, I think that sometimes that's why hip hop gets the whole stigma attached to it. Even though hip hop has the great, you know, the culture and all of that to it, it's when we stand by and when we allow all of that music to come into the hip hop culture, what was bred and it was supposed to be for so many other things. And when we sit by and we allow everybody to do what they want to do to our art, well then why shouldn't somebody slap us down? You know, if it's our music, then if we know that this hip hop is going to make a difference, then somehow we have to get to some of these artists that are just putting guns in the videos just to have a gun in the video. I mean, like, why you got the gun in the video? You know, if I bring you onto my platform, I don't want to hear you talk about all of that other stuff. I want to hear what you're doing in the community. So we have to help them, make them understand that those things are important. That's all a part, that transferable skills that make them know that maybe what they are doing, they love to write music. Well, you know what? You can write code if you love music, 1 and 0s. They're doing that at Harvard. You got faculty members that are interested in talking to these people. There are so many people in Boston that know these people in these different universities that can bring them back to the communities to have them talk to these kids. And I just don't understand why that doesn't happen enough.
Well, yeah, it does. There you go. It doesn't happen enough. So once again, you know, here's efforts like this. And I tell you, like, you know, Dr. Ibram Kendi, when he first came to Boston, I brought him to Frugal Bookstore because I had been trying to get him here and blah, blah, blah. And, you know, that's when he first released his book and it was just hot all over the place. And the first thing all of a sudden I saw announced, Boston Globe, Dr. Ibram Kendi, and he was going to the Brookline Booksmith and that little theater up there in Brookline, Coolidge Corner. And I'm like, how you gonna bring this man and he ain't gonna come to where the Black people are? So of course I'm calling now, extra complaining, and finally got in contact with him, his people, blah, 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 and was able to bring him through Frugal Bookstore. And that was his first time in Boston. And he actually came to Frugal Bookstore first and then was waiting on a cab to get to the place. The cab was not coming. I'm like, brother, I drive, you know, let's go. So I took him because I was going to his other lecture anyway. I'm like, I'm on my way, bro. So I ended up actually driving him to the lecture. We had a great talk on the way. You know, and then he did his lecture. And then a couple months later, it's announced he's coming to BU. First trip to Boston, and they snagged him up. Think about it like sports teams or something. The Celtics snagged him up. You know what I mean? Now here we have one of the prime Black intellectuals in the country right now. Hot, young, what have you, been in BU. Now our challenge is now how do we get him out of BU and back to the hood again, right? These are the things I had with Cornell West decades ago. Cornell West never came to the hood. Then Occupy Boston happened and he was there with the with basically the majority, largely majority white crowd and Noam Chomsky. They were there every couple of weeks. And I'm like, bro, I've been trying to get you to like Franklin Park or like the Strand Theater forever. You dig? So we got to definitely use what we got to get what we want. But also too, we got to support it when it comes. You know, so everybody here be deputized. Like the last thing I did with Dr. Akinyele, that thing should have had 1,000 people in there. And I'm looking at these are like low numbers. And this event here We're talking about it's swirled in with several hot button issues. Cannabis, hot like fire. The cannabis industry is on fire. I put together a panel of some of the illest Black people involved in the cannabis industry here in Boston today. Then brought in a hip hop artist. Y'all just talked to him. This is not a stupid guy. This is not a one-dimensional guy who's just gonna, I need weed. That's not his line. So what I'm saying is now, can we, like, if this thing don't got 300 people in it, once again, it's another failure to me of Boston. And I'm going to continue to try to bring these things.
Yeah.
But now we have to then try to expose it to the masses. And just for a minute, sis, hold on just for a minute. Because in the past, we did an interview with Hassan Smith. Do y'all know Hassan Smith? Hassan Smith is a Roxbury guy. And he also happens to have a really good job. Priscilla, you're on mute if you were trying to say something. He also happens to have a really good job. He works for
he used to be a court officer? I mean, work for the sheriff? And he ran for sheriff or something?
No, not that.
No.
Same name, different person.
Oh, okay.
This one, his mama used to work over at Northeastern forever. But no, this is Hassan Smith, has a really great job, works for a guy you might have heard of named John Legend. And he's John Legend's manager. At that time, he was just the manager of like one aspect, but now he's the manager of everything, John Legend. Everything, the foundation, the music business, everything. John Legend, it's a big deal. Funny story. I'm like, hey, bro, yo, I want to maybe try to do a peace concert or something like that. Yo, how much, I'm feeling myself. I got some dollars. I'm like, yo, how much would it cost to get John Legend to come to Boston? You know what I mean? I'm like, what, like 30,000, something like that? He was like, nah, bro. I said, well, what? Like 40? He's like, nah, bro. He told me $300,000. $300,000. I should have paid attention in them piano lessons, boy. Let me tell you. All right. But all right. So John Legend did an interview with Hassan on the tip of talking about coming from Boston for kids to know about the music industry and, it was all super positive. This dude on his phone, he talks to Obama and like Oprah. You know what I mean? Like, do you think we got a big turnout for that? And that was a Zoom thing. It's still on YouTube. So it's still, not too late to share it with your kids, whatever. Great. I've interviewed Public Enemy, Dr. Runoko Rashidi, Danny Simmons, the creator of Def Poetry Jam, and Russell Simmons' brother, older brother at that. So on and so forth. And Run from Run DMC's older brother. So my point is that if we create something that I'm not going to say is going to be a perfect vehicle, but at least a good vehicle, a good example for our people, we have to support it. So if y'all believe in what we've heard tonight and Hakim Green, who I brought on, and y'all do your own thing on it, go plug it into the YouTubes, plug it in on the interwebs. You'll see what he's about. You heard Brother Randy talk about me, Uno the Prophet. If you're interested, Google my names. If you spell my first name right, you halfway there. Uno the Prophet, my rap name. What I'm saying, so if you feel like it's good, support it and spread the word. People be asking me, what can I do? What can I do? Spread the word. That's the only thing you can do. Spread the word. Come on, somebody say something. Come on, y'all.
Well, anybody else can? I got something to say, but I can wait. Go ahead, Lorraine.
One thing, and I'm again having seen this from the inside and having dealt with I don't know how many organizations. What I feel is that people are working toward what pleases them and away from being afraid. And most folks are afraid. And I don't understand totally what that's about, but that distrust that we have in each other, that fear of each other has to be addressed, and it can be addressed through music. It can be addressed through creative arts. It can be addressed through that will help to conversations to come about. The brainwashing that's been done to people in Boston is just freaking amazing to me. Other cities, I won't say all because I haven't been to all, but other cities are not experiencing life the same way the Black Bostonians are experiencing life. It's like there's some kind of a hood over everybody's head, and it's singularly tied. And we don't understand that we let the hood up off. If you stop grabbing onto the string and pulling the string, you will be able to breathe, be able to see. Everyone will be able to get along. Well, not everyone, but you know what I'm saying. Our children will not look at each other with envy or spite or just hate and fear. The bullying, a lot of things will change. I say that to say this: hip hop can be a way of marketing, can be a marketing tool. It can be used over and over again. Language, the same lyrics can be drummed into the head of anybody who hears them. You hear something because you can't unhear it. The message in marketing is to hear it, and people need to hear it 7 times. They need to hear it 7 times a day, fine, but they need to hear it 7 times a day for however many days is a complete unwashing of the brain. Whoever could come up with this music, promote it, and create sort of like a media connection or a media network, because it can't be just Jamal. It can't be just this one. It can't be just that one. It has to be a web. People have to fall into that web and not fall out. It cannot fall out. They got to hear it over and over and over, and they can hear it in different lyrics. They can hear it from different artists, but there has to be something that comes together that's solid, that will help refocus the attention away from guns and violence. And the people that have been in prison to tell you the same thing. Darryl Jones, Mac Hudson, Sean, people from the Innocence Project, they will tell you the same thing, the same sort of thing. It has to be consistent, and it can be done through music. But they have to hear this over and over and over again, just like that's just the same way they see hatred coming at them however many times a day from people that look like them, from people that don't look like them. They have to hear in their head and begin to absorb the fact that they're not who it is that's reflected in somebody else's eyes. They are who they are. Who people want to say God's child, Allah's child, whoever's child, their mama's and their daddy's child. If they were mistreated, they still are a person. They're still loved, and we still have to learn how to love ourselves, and that can be done through music.
Are we only concentrating on music? Because if you got the opportunity, because I'm not originally from Boston, just in case, and I think Boston is a fucking gold mine for me. I grew up in Louisiana, poorest fucking state, that whatever. But to be here in Massachusetts, I believe this place is a gold mine, especially for knowledge and education. Like right now, I have over 15 MIT people that I could blast right now, but they're not in music. I'm talking about physics. I'm talking about chemical. I'm talking about economics. I'm talking about math. I'm talking about political. I'm talking about aero astronomy. All of these individuals who are on MIT. Now, if you had these individuals available to you, what would you do with them? And this is me providing the opportunity to anyone who wants to take that.
So first of all, I don't know if you are familiar with what Malcolm X, said about our students, but those who are, are political science experts and majors, those are the ones who are best suited to try to develop our political plan. Those who are attorneys and so on and so forth, illegal, medical, health, so on and so forth. So, what I would do and what I have done when those opportunities have presented myself is first if any of those students are available and want to talk to youth, first of all, we need to be able to plug them into some of the local schools here, so that they can see, first of all, that there are Black people that go to MIT, right? And then also too, to be able to introduce them to, see, what you rattled off there was a good list, because it wasn't the normal list of, those are a very specified field of, fields of study. And so we want to get our kids, and there's a lot of STEM programs and whatnot, but they tend to be a little bit more on the, well, all of them are entry level, but I'm gonna say super entry level. But yeah, if there were students who were able to work with kids, and we've had some successful programs that have dealt with everything from chess to like robotics, things like that. We could find space at like the library, as Sister said before, which is free, down in formerly Dudley, now Nubian Square, the bowling building, and tap in with a lot of these existing groups and organizations. In addition to that, particularly, let's say a field like you said, like astronomy. And I know that MIT has the observatory, right? If we could get a group of kids that want to go up there, and we could organize an event to, if there's a major astronomical event taking place, like right now, I believe is the Pleiades meteor shower is happening. And so we've been seeing some fireballs. But if something like that is going on, and we had time to organize some kids, but even on just any night for kids to be in an observatory and look at the stars, if we were able to set up something like that, those are the types of things that I would want to do, as well as tap into the expertise. I don't know how that would, tap into our revolutionary defense. We're not ready yet to build the space laser yet. You know what I mean? But certainly the edification and education of our kids and exposing them to various fields of study, and therefore new fields of employment and endeavor. Absolutely.
Okay, well, I'm lending myself out to anyone who is serious about that. I'm 1000% serious. I'll put my email in. Hit me up, anybody who can hear my voice, who's serious about this and putting this together. I'm 1000% serious. Thank you.
So, bro, so let me ask you a couple things. So you go to MIT?
No, I don't go to MIT, but I go where I need to be.
Okay. And so how old a brother are you, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm 38 years old, strong, player.
Okay, yes, sir. And then too, how did you hear about this?
One of my good friends who's also in the cannabis industry, female, her name go by Goldie.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and I know Chief also.
Okay, good. All right, cool. Goldie Piff, word up. All right, so yeah, let's build. Yeah, I'll put my email in the chat as well. Boom, which is just my name at Gmail, my name dot whatever at gmail.com. And yeah, let's build, and whoever else wants to put their thing in there. When I'm done with these recordings, it saves the chat log, it saves the whatever. So if anybody has any other information they want to put in there, your website, your contact information, or whatever, I can then send that out to everybody who was in on this. Like, I won't make it public. It would just go to the other people who were in the chat. So if you'd like to, because now we're about to wind down, if you would like to put your contact information inside the chatterations.
Priscilla, you mentioned the Black Political Task Force. What is that?
That was an organization that was around in the 80s that worked on political bringing folks together around political candidates. I was not a part of that movement. I knew about it, but I didn't get involved with it. We're actually having Professor Jermadari and Professor Tony Vandermeer come to a meeting next week that we are having at on Southern Ave, 86 Southern Ave. And they're going to tell us, Professor Jermadari, who is at UMass, who is part of the Africana studies, which they're trying to shut down. So that's a whole nother issue that we have. They went from 7 members to 1 staff person, and they're literally trying to shut that African study program down. But Professor Jermadari and Professor Tony Vandermeer, they were. Lorraine, were you part of the Black Political Task Force?
No, but I went to a couple of their meetings, and it was basically what they would do is endorse candidates. But I don't remember Bill Owens and I think Mel and them were part of that as well.
Mel, I think maybe Chuck Turner. You know,
Doris
Jamal?
Bunty.
I don't know that Chuck was so much a part of that, but
Oh, really?
Doris Bunty, I believe.
yes, yeah.
Okay.
Gloria
Fox.
Fox.
Yeah.
It was a place for people who had intentions on becoming an elected official or previously elected officials to participate and help to create an agenda to know what to ask people who are running. Because everybody that jumps up and wants to run is not necessarily qualified. Like you said, Jamal, people are not always best people to speak for you. You know, people who are not necessarily the best folks to represent you. So again, I was not a member.
Yeah, so we're trying to kind of like recreate the wheel. So that's why we're trying to find out exactly what happened, how it started, who was involved, and what happened to it. Because it kind of like, I don't know, got defunct some kind of way. So
yeah, I mean, at least in my opinion and in my experience, oftentimes, we learn from past models. And okay, put it like this: it's like business. Somebody says, I want to open an ice cream shop in Mattapan Square. Sounds like a great idea. Everybody loves ice cream, right? But then what you would do is you need to look at, well, why did Brigham's close? It was Brigham's, a known entity for years, and they weren't able to keep it up there. Do I really want to open an ice cream shop in Mattapan Square? So, and because maybe at one time it was the thing, and but things move, trends move, and all this. So we gotta stick and move. We gotta be agile. We gotta adapt with the times. So the Black Political Task Force, in my assessment, didn't survive because it did not adapt with the times. When old membership, when there was no new membership to replace it, and it did not become a sustainable vehicle. As Lorraine said, I think the bulk of it was trying to develop a platform, vet candidates on a particular platform, see where they stood on it, and then they would decide whether to endorse or not. Once again, as you know, Priscilla, what I've been talking about for a long time, due to one of my mentors, Bill Owens, Senator Bill Owens, rest in peace, is the Boston Black agenda.
Yeah.
Why? And that's because it was, in my brain, first of all, what he tried to do, not what he tried to do, what he did do with the National Black Agenda Convention back in, I can't remember the year now. But when he did that, and he brought a gathering of people from across the country, and they came and they went in different, what you call them things, little plenaries, or I forget what you call them, but everybody had their own little thing and blah, 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 and brought it together the way it was supposed to be done from the model that he was going on, which was the Black National Political Convention. That, I believe, is the model that we need to study. And that was the one that was done, I believe, in what, 1972, 3, maybe 4, with Amiri Baraka, the mayor of Newark's father, Ras Baraka, who we were talking about earlier, Amiri Baraka, the world famous poet and activist and thinker. He convened along with many other organizations, and the mayor of that time, Lorraine, or one of y'all help me out. Where was it held? Was it Cleveland or Cincinnati?
I
Oh
don't
my,
remember.
the National Black Political Convention. It's right on the tip of my tongue, but it was a big, I'm just forgetting the city, but it was a big deal because it had a black mayor and all this. They came together and it was a who's who of politics, and it was a who's who of, you know, the arts world. Yeah, it was really, yeah, the merger of, like, this is the time, like the Black Power movement and the Black arts movement. And you know, it was like this, and we experienced that in Boston as well. That's what we need to bring back. One of the reasons, Priscilla and Lorraine, and you know, maybe y'all can help on this, because I am not the person to help on this, and quite frankly wouldn't want to, even if I was, because I'm not the camp come along guy. I'm not a diplomat, I'm a warrior. So like I'd be like off with their heads. So the reason that this unity has not happened, or let me at least speak for myself. The reason it's difficult for a person like me to unify is because of character and integrity and things like this. We can move forward on a principle, but I also need to know that you're not like gonna steal the money. You're not gonna try to like screw the women, that you're not gonna like beat the women. You know, like I can't just rock just because we, you know, agree on a political platform. I also have to be able to stand next to you on principle and character, you know. And so unfortunately, you know, as people say, it's a lot of shit in the game. Here in Boston, it's a lot of shit in the game. Lorraine, to your point, more than most places, because even bigger cities, New York, Philly, Chicago, all places I've been organized in, got comrades in, Atlanta, whatever, they got their own issues. It ain't like they perfect, for sure. They got their own issues, but it ain't like this. Something special in Boston. I don't know if it's chemtrails or something they put in the water, lead paint, them cigarettes they was passing out in OP years ago. I don't know what it was, but something in Boston is different.
It is. I agree with that. I agree.
It's true.
Yeah.
When you leave Boston and on your way back, you have it's a physical feeling that when you're getting off the plane, when your plane is approaching Logan, it's a whole different feeling. I don't care what mode of transportation you in. It's a pressure that's on you physically.
Watch this, y'all. Every time I leave Boston and I go to New York or Atlanta or any of those places I just mentioned, Philly, Chicago, but mainly like New York or Atlanta, as soon as I leave here, you know, as an artist, I write poetry and I rap. As soon as I leave here, I become like a faucet. All of a sudden, I'm writing like a storm, poems, lyrics, everything coming out of me, thoughts coming out of me all over the place. I come back here, constipation, creative constipation.
Yep.
Every now and again, I might squeeze out a hard turd or something. You know what I mean? But generally, it's crazy.
Excuse me. I have a question about that. I mean, like Matthew said he's from Louisiana. I mean, I've been here for 25 plus years, right? But, you know, I moved up here from San Antonio, Texas. And so, you know, our observation of what we see here in Boston is so great. And it would be really cool to have like these conversations with, you know, with people that are from Boston. You always get the crab in the barrel thing. And sometimes I totally get it, but it's like, why does it have to keep repeating itself? You know, if you all know, or whatever, that it's that crab in the barrel mentality, who starts talking about what else do we do to loosen that mentality so that you can go on? I mean, we interviewed the Bad Boys of Funk, Rick James's backup band, right? They still talk about what happened to them when they came here way back in the day, right? And Sister Sledge. So it's like, how do we use those lessons from way back to to really address what's going on and how do we help our teachers by helping our students learn their history. And that can be done outside of the classroom. So that way, when these young people learn, when they go to the classroom, they can ask those questions and then the teachers can talk. So I say this because I have 25-year-old twins. They're both teachers, right? So my goal is to help. I got to help them to have a more successful class. And then that means that I got to help make sure that these young kids that are out there on the streets, when we're talking about, you need to stop doing this. Well, what are they going to do? What do we have in place for them, right? So that's why I'm talking about what this think tank, you know. And I put my email in the chat. Some of us are already, maybe not from this conversation, but you know, they'll be introduced to this conversation where we're trying to talk about that think tank. So that way we can organize this in a way, and maybe it has to be everybody that's not from Boston, so that we're not caught up in all of the history that is so rich. All of that history is so rich, right? So UMass Hip Hop Archives, I don't know if you all know about that, but they're doing their big event November 19th, where they're asking people to bring in some of their hip hop memorabilia. You get to bring 3 items and they'll scan it and then they take a little interview. But you know, the hip hop is so rich around here. I just can't understand how come we can't figure out how not to smother it.
So let me just say this, sis. Yeah, even though, you know, sometimes I'm on some doom and gloom, all is not lost. But this is where I said about like-minded people. So what it is it's the pockets, in my opinion. It's the pockets. But the whole concept of like everybody gonna come along, and that's just never gonna happen. So, but there are pockets of what's happening. When you say like, what would it take to get past the, you know, the crab in the bucket situation or dilemma? You know, one of the things is some of the crabs got to get boiled. So that the fact of the matter is we need to cleanse and a purge. And it's just like anything else in terms of like healing. If you got a dirty secret in your family, you know, some molestation or some theft or whatever, you know, it's never going to get addressed until folks talk about it. And, you know, if that person who did wrong, you know, if it's something you can actually come back from, not what I just said, if it's something you can come back from, you know, that person to admit it, confess it, apologize, and then make amends for it. If I stole Auntie's TV because I was in a crack binge fit, and now I'm clean now, when I come back, like, oh, Auntie, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry, I never did that. I'm clean now. Buy her a new TV, wash her car for the next, you know, couple of months out to for the next year. Whatever it is you got to do to make amends to show that you now a better person. Unfortunately, in organization here in Boston, from what I've seen, is we have a lot of bad actors in leadership positions who never get called on their stuff. So that leaves a bad taste in every mouth. The analogy I gave earlier, if you have a bad experience in a church or any other religious setting, and then you like, man, F that. And it wasn't the church, it wasn't God, it was that you ran into some sucker, one sucker. You know what I mean? People did it with hip hop. You know, you went to one concert, you got popped in the mouth, and then you're like, everybody's violent. No, you just ran into one person that, you know, was on that, whatever it is. So my point is that in order for us to move forward, my belief, and this is just, you know, this is on a human thing, spiritual thing, whatever, we're never going to move forward until we're able to cleanse and purge the stuff that's blocking us up. So we don't want to dwell on the negative too long, but we have to dwell on it a bit in order to eviscerate it. We got to put the laser light on the cancer. Hopefully it's all gone, and then we can move on.
We have to we have to learn how to forgive one another, and we have to do like a reconciliation some kind of way, because we are hurt and broken and bitter.
How do you reconcile with people who haven't asked for forgiveness? This is what I'm saying. So there's a lot of people in leadership in Boston right now who are running around like they're the moral authority, who have done some very they've committed multiple cases of scumbaggery, okay? They don't want to admit it. They ain't talking about it. And so how can you reconcile with somebody who ain't even trying to admit what they do? Now, once again, I'm being very nice now because I could call them out in terms of I could name a name and I could say the type of things that they do. But me as a Black man, some of the things that they do, I do not rock with. Okay. So I'm never gonna be cool with a person who is a thief. Like if you steal from the people, tell me you figured out how to steal from Jeff Bezos. I'm your number one friend. You tell me you stealing from the little old lady next door, I'm liable to crack you in your head and take the money back. You see, so I can't deal with certain things, certain character. This is what I mean. And so, yes, we do need a reconciliation or whatever, but that would assume that the guilty parties are going to want to admit their slime bag ways, which they never do, and would want to say, hey, we need not only forgiveness, but we want to turn a new leaf and we're not going to do that anymore. And that's the part where that's not going to happen. And so at some point we need to do, what's the Roman Catholic Church do? What they call excommunicate them? We need to do that. We need excommunication. We need to bring the scarlet letter back, all that type of stuff.
Under the hip hop, just a thought though, the court system for our men that are having problems with custody hearing and stuff like that, right? Those kind of things, and the health. So sometimes there is so much pressure on our brothers that, it's like just try to take care of your health, just trying to take care of your job, and then just trying to, be part of what may be your offspring, right? So even finding, mass ways to empower them, to help them, because it's all about navigating the court system, right? And we I feel like I be a part of it because we have a little television show we were doing. It was called Our View, and we only had men as the host, but it was to show men as a powerful place, right? And that's where I just think that it's hard sometimes for women to like really be out there for our brothers because it's like so many other things that are going on. But it would really be cool if there was like more things for our men to help them figure out, navigate the court system. And then maybe they could be more involved with what we need. Maybe they could really believe in the system if they weren't fighting the court system.
So once again, sis, it goes back to support. And Cornell, if you're still on there, you remember when we did that protest out in front of probate court?
Yeah, I'm listening.
There you go.
Edward Brook.
Courthouse protested.
Yeah.
So my point is that everything that you're saying is 100% correct. A lot of people such as myself and whatnot have already done a lot of these things. They weren't supported enough. So what we have to do, I believe, is support more of the good stuff and shut down a lot of the whack stuff. So for instance, I don't even know if my website is up because I've been under mad attack lately with my websites, but I had a website there called Forefathers, like FOR, forefathers.net, which had all the resources for probate court, blah, blah, blah. I got screwed. My daughter's 24 years old. They still got me. I don't even want to say how much I owe on thing. Listen, they got me with a fictitious amount that they say I owe. My daughter will tell you, I mean, she's 24 years old. This has been going on forever. Trust me, I know how people's getting done through the ringer. And I brought this up to the ACLU, Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights, NAACP. Right now, I'm trying to change the legislation because the very first thing where they start off wrong is in the case of children born out of wedlock, the court is supposed to make a determination as to who is the better fit parent. But they don't say how that determination is made. What is it? Tiddlywinks? A flip of the coin? Arm wrestling? What are you doing? Right? So they never say it. So what ends up happening is it goes off of the eyeball visualization. which ends up being woman wins. And of all the cases, because as you know, I don't got to tell you, women normally get the crappy end of the stick. But of all situations, in this particular thing, women always have the upper hand. And it's actually it's actually sexism and gender bias, because the assumption is that a woman is always going to be the better parent. And while that might be the case, I'll give y'all 80 to 85% of the time, there are also cases in when the woman is not fit to raise the child, even though the child came obviously out of her body, but her lifestyle, might be in question, and the father might be the better person, or there needs to be a 50. All this doesn't happen. So been there, done that, and I'm willing to go there again with you, particularly if you have an interest in that. And once again, it's just, how do we get mass support to the good stuff?
We get mass support because every community has a cable access station, right? So that right there is about creating a story. It could be one story every week, every month, and you get the masses out there on cable access. They can't turn you away, but we don't use a lot of what we are that has been built by the game books, right? The game may be rigged, but we know how to unrig it because there's enough smart people.
So once again, sis, we just got to keep building, because a lot of that, once again, too, I think, Lorraine, didn't you used to have a show? I think a lot of, we've been on BNN. We know the people who started.
BNN was under attack, so it's a little more complicated than that. I didn't have a show. I was a co-producer with someone, but
right. I mean, look, Miss Barber, she's gone now. Curtis,
yeah, they're gone. But Sister Yvette, you're from outside. When I was from outside and came in, I didn't understand that shit either. I did not understand what the hell was going on in Boston, why these people were acting the way they were, why everybody was all paranoid, why they don't want to talk and say nothing, why they will let you walk down the street to get beat up at the other end of the street by a bunch of white people. I did not understand any of that, and I still don't. However, what it's going to take, and here's another little dirty secret nobody wants to talk about. If you can get 120 people together, you can get 60 of them, you can take to pay dues in any organization, any Black organization, and show up on the annual meeting where they vote. You can take that organization, including the NAACP, all of them, because folks, they're a bunch of bed bugs. They sit on this one, they sit on that one, and they disturb, and they hoard information, and they keep progress at a standstill. Jamal, you know what I'm talking about. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Hey, not for nothing, Lorraine, because since I got you on here, I'll share this story with the people. So, Lorraine and I, we used to work together back in 1997. I worked for the then city councilor, Gareth Saunders, and we worked together in the office. At that time, racism was, on full display. There were affirmative action hearings, and it was like police and fire contracts were up, and there was these people were filling the hallway. They were shoulder bumping people in the hallway. I started bringing my knife to work.
Yep.
For real. Yep. Because I was like, yo, I'll poke somebody, you know what I mean? Whatever. So to this day now, those experiences stuck with me. And while many of you might know, like Kevin Peterson and this type of thing, trying to rename Faneuil Hall, and, Siddiqui, renaming Dudley to Nubian, and all these type of things. An idea came in my head, because I'm like, man, we don't need to go back no 100 years to find no villains. And when I worked in city council, I worked there with a young fella by the name of Jim Kelly, and another young fella by the name of Albert Dapper O'Neill. These were two of the most racist, like overt racist. This is before people were trying to hide it. They were loud and proud, right?
Yes, sir.
And so just recently, I proposed to city council that they dename the Jim Kelly Bridge in South Boston, and that they dename the Albert Dapper O'Neill hearing room, which is, I think, room 801, And Boston City Hall, it's where they do all the zoning and stuff like that. Let's dename those things named after those who we know and experience the racism, because Lorraine, this is why I was going to clue you in. Do you remember that day where they said nigga in City Hall chambers?
Who said it? Which one said it?
I believe it was Jim Kelly that day. And I immediately ran back and went. Do you remember the guy who used to run City Council TV? Because he was like Jim Kelly's right-hand man.
Yeah, the guy with the black hair.
Exactly. And the little leather members only jacket.
Mhm.
So this dude, so as soon as they said it, I ran in the back and I was like, excuse me, I need that tape. And he was like,
Delete.
and he was like, what tape?
Delete.
And his finger was on the he was recording over it.
I missed that one.
Oh no, oh no. So maybe you remember the thing, because you were probably, as you often were, doing work in the office. But no, so then Gareth came back in the office, slammed the big door. For those that don't know, them city council doors is big old doors, right? So he slammed that door and came in, and he was so upset about it and all this, da-da-da-da. And he and I had a personal conversation. And I was just like, yo, don't get mad at us, man. You need to go, you know what I mean? Like, fire off
Wait a
on
minute,
them.
he called Gareth a nigga?
No. Charles
He
Manson
just said the
was-
word.
Well,
Okay.
he said nigger in chambers. Now, on another occasion, he did call Gareth a nigger. You could ask Gareth about this. And on another occasion, too, Dapper O'Neill told Gareth, once again in city council chambers, as I remember it, told him, shut the F up.
Oh, I missed all that.
Wow.
I was
So
down, so I didn't know none of that.
Maybe
And I
our
was
other
always
coworkers
trying
remember.
to listen in. I missed that. Nobody said nothing after that. Well, I'm confused.
Who was
Gareth
gonna say
Man, it
anything?
was hot. I know he has to remember, and Yancey has to remember as well, because it happened in the thing. And then of course, you know, the other famous stories, which is why, you know, which leads to the whole thing. But of course, Jim Kelly and Dapper O'Neill were infamous for their roles in busing. And then, you know, the Ku Klux Klan came to
And the Irish
town, and then they
Mafia.
were rumored to have a secret meeting in which they were made honorary members. This is what the rumor was at the time, alleged.
They was
but
part of the Irish Mafia. But
that
aside from
too,
that,
that too. But when the Klan came to town, from what I understand, they had a meeting with, you know,
Yeah.
South Boston in general, and at this thing, they made Dapper and Kelly honorary members of the Klan, you know. But in any event, so say all that to say, the history, you know, is deep here, and in order to get past it, I believe clearly we need new leadership.
outside forces.
And yeah, outside forces. One of the first things I did pushing police reform was I asked for independent investigation in terms of like a federal investigation. And the feds ain't always the best thing either, but it beats what we had here at the time and what we have to date. But in any event,
Oh, didn't you write to the JOG too?
DOG, yeah, DOJ.
DOJ, yeah. You wrote to them, right? To try
Yeah,
to
that
get
was exactly. They have a program called COPS, which is what is it? Community oversight, professional standards, something like that. In any event, they are the ones that basically go in. Not for nothing, my brother Matthew, when Louisiana was going through a lot of its stuff, they came in, and this is where I mean, where the feds, is it good, is it bad, whatever. But when in New Orleans, when their department was under scrutiny, the feds came in and helped restructure the department. The goal is to achieve a different level of fairness and diversity and blah, blah, blah. But they basically go into troubled police departments and are supposed to set them right. They went into Baltimore after the Freddie Gray thing, and they've gone to a bunch of places, and they kind of set professional standards across the country. Yeah, so I called them in to deal with BPD because, as most of you know, what the BPD is great at and what most of Boston is great at is patting ourselves on the back. We're so great. We're so wonderful. Well, why the hell do we have all these problems then? You know, the BPD will tell you that they're the greatest police force in the nation. If anybody's into it, there's a comedian, it's the puffy face guy. He does all the comic roasts. Jeff Ross, not the Jeff Ross from Boston, comedian Jeff Ross. He does a lot of comedy roasts. He one time did a Jeff roast the cops, and they roast the cops. Came here, and the BPD in that at that time it was Commissioner William Evans. You know, they were all cheering us on, whatever. But he says, you know, Boston's a great force. You know, they haven't shot and killed anybody. You know, shot and killed an innocent person in, 28 years. And that was a bold-faced lie. And any way you try to slice it, because when they say innocent, they mean somebody like who's like meaning you were unarmed and you had nothing to do with nothing. And that's just a bold-faced lie. You know what I mean? They in fact have done several people in the past 28 years. You know, some of them were egregious cases in terms of, there definitely were cases where they shot people where it's hard for anyone to make an excuse why, somebody got out the car, shot at them first, they shot back, they killed it. We understand that. But yeah, no, there were many of them who were unarmed, in various states of mental illness, but certainly not a danger or anything like that. And they too wound up dead. So all of that is a myth. And so let me wind up here. What I'm saying is what we need in Boston is truth, accountability. We need a revolution of character and integrity and morals. And, look,
So I'm in the airport.
y'all done seen my flaws right on display tonight. Look. I drink a beer and I smoke a spliff. I confess. Dominus ominous. Okay?
So-
And that's it. Everything
So
else I'm saying is, hold on. All I'm saying is that whatever we do and going forward and whatever type of movement we building, we have to make sure that no children are harmed, no women are harmed, no vulnerable people of anything are harmed, no money is taken or manipulated, nobody is using power over anybody. Everything has to be fair, square biz. Like, I have to feel comfortable for my daughter to be involved, because if not, the whole thing is gonna burn. You understand what I'm saying? Everybody has to be safe. Just like I want my daughter to be safe, I want everybody's kids to be safe. And let's face it, we're all somebody's kids. You dig? Go ahead, sis.
So interns, does anybody here know where, there are individuals that maybe are in school programs that are looking for something to do to get credits?
You should reach out to RCC, and I know Northeastern has a department specifically for that, where they send out like interns.
Okay.
But they have a high they have a very stringent thing. Like, for instance, like if you're a nonprofit organization, they're gonna want to know, the the staffing, the whole, it's a deep dive for them to send students to the thing. There's a whole process for you or your organization to get involved. But Northeastern has it, and RCC, who I don't know their process at all.
Okay, so I bring that up because of back to cable access, right? So if we can find that kind of pot, then that could be something that we use as we find these different, as we become members of these different cable access stations. You don't have to be a producer that knows how to use the camera and all of that. You can sign up so that you can just get a time slot and you could submit a show, right? So in a sense, let's say if this was a collaborative and we put out a show once a month, then all 8 of us on our show would submit our show to our cable access station. I'm just saying that I don't want to cuss, but forget everybody else. Everybody else has got to do their bit. Like you said, they need to be accountable. We need to get rid of them out of the office, all of that kind of stuff. Well, while all of that is going on, simultaneously, we have to be moving forward. We have to be doing stuff because they're going to make sure that it takes time for them to get out of office so that way they can get what they need. But while they're doing that, we have to be moving forward onto something. And so when you talk about the whole crabs in the barrel, that's the thing, Laverne said it, somebody outside, so that we're not totally connected to what's going on with the crabs in the barrel.
So what we
Because
need,
it's sucking it.
So what we need, once again, it goes back to the support thing. So yes, everything you're saying, yes, but we need more people. So for instance, interns to BNN, for instance, you mentioned other ones as well. So the closest ones is, is public access TV in Brookline, and then there's the other one in Cambridge. Those are probably the closest ones.
Somerville.
Right? Yeah, Somerville as well.
Medford,
Right.
Malden.
So that's one. Then now we're getting a little bit more outskirty. I'm just talking about for the people that I know, which is primarily Boston. So all I'm saying is that, so with that, BNN has a partnership with RCC currently. One of the main people on the board of BNN and one of the main video dudes is Justin Petty, who's actually a professor of the video program, audiovisual program, I believe, at RCC. What I'm saying is, and they got a truck and everything. There is no group of people who is beating a path to their door. That's all I'm saying. So everything you're talking about for ideas, I'm super down with. We just have to figure out a way to get critical mass. Else it's just going to be me and you and, whoever's on this call that's down or whatever. But I'm saying to get it to be an actual thing, a program like interns, great. How do we find those college students who are willing to give up their time for this particular vision? Because even in communication programs where internships are established, they are finding it difficult. And I myself, who has my own media vehicle and has partnerships with people like GBH, The Globe, NBC, NBC 10, whatever it's called, NBC 10. Nobody's beating the path to my door either. And we've already produced video, movies, filmed panels, done film reviews. So all I'm saying is everything you're saying, yes, yes, and yes. But if we have a film opening or a play or a positive hip hop concert or a dance or whatever, we have to be able to get hundreds of people there.
Well, the big thing when you talk about hundreds of people, it's also about safety, right? So sometimes you're just not going to get that right now because a lot of people just don't feel safe. But sometimes we also have to look at, who are we reaching out to? Who's our audience, and are we too into this audience that we know that's not going to come, right? And how do we spread our legs? I mean, I think I saw this for tonight. I just happened to see it on Facebook. But when we talk about cannabis and what you're talking about, there's the big thing on cannabis is how do nonprofit organizations or people that are doing things get funding from these cannabis companies? So like those kind of topics, yeah, we already know it's too expensive for us to get into the cannabis world. We're blocked out. The high dollar people in real estate and all of that are the ones that are getting into the cannabis because they can afford real estate. They can afford the overhead. I mean, we look at what happened to Dennis, right? But how do we get the money that's going into the cannabis? How do these different cities, how do people like you and me get into our city office and say, we want to see the records of distribution for all of the cannabis money that's coming into our cities? Because that is supposed to be going back to our communities. So you know, when we talk about what is there, there's some things that are there, but we're not, we are over here maybe trying to enforce change or make change to happen when that's a distraction. And how do we go about and say, okay, we know you got the cannabis money, where's the cannabis money? And how do we tell these organizations, these are the steps that you take in order for the cannabis organization to support your project? That's not, that information is not being shared. That's not.
So
not to interrupt you, step on you. My phone about to die. Ma'am, I have a meeting with the Cannabis Control Commission on the 15th. Get in touch with me, please.
Okay.
Hit me up, and I will set fire to her fucking ass about this and this information that we're not receiving, because minority and people of color are not receiving information about the Cannabis Control Commission. They're using us as a horse and pony fucking show.
Yes, and all that money is going in.
So it really is, I don't mean to smile and all that, but like, how long y'all been here? Because for real, a lot of this been done. A lot of us were at the beginning of the push for cannabis. The reason it has happened, and the reason it's gone this way, is obviously the politic, and folks ain't gonna be able to unstick that. But in terms of being able to discuss it, this is one of the reasons what this panel is for. So all of the people that I've assembled are some of the most knowledgeable people on the issue. All of the people from the Cannabis Commission, the statewide Cannabis Commission, as well as the citywide cannabis thing, have been invited, as well as all the local dispensaries, as well as all the local cannabis media. So, and media in general. So once again, depends on support. So this could be a real live discussion, and all those questions could get answered. And this could lead to some real live organizing, depending on who comes.
That committee that you have up there speaking, are majority of those dispensaries, where are they as far as in the industry?
With the dispensaries that I've invited?
Yeah, have you only invited dispensaries? Are those the only individuals who are going to be speaking at that conference?
No, not at all. Nah. So I mean, I don't know if you saw the flyer. I think I put the thing in there, but you could see the whole panel. It's in there. Chief, well, Chief owns Yamba, right? Maurice and his wife, they don't own a dispensary, but they, deal with everything from, growing, and he has Shakti Green Tea. She deals with entrepreneurial empowerment in the cannabis industry. They do recipes, all that, as well as Leah and Jay. Yes, it's a wide variety of experiences, as well as Hakim, and then folks are just knowledgeable on the industry itself. And then in terms of people who've been invited, as I said, both of those cannabis commissions. I went to a couple of the cannabis things sponsored by Sensi Magazine the other day. So once again, I've invited all sorts of the media, particular growers that I know, enthusiasts. I mean, once again, if everybody comes, then it should be a wide variety of people. And once again, if you see the makeup too, there's no dispensaries on there who are, the exploiters, basically. I've invited the people from Seed as well. They're not on the panel, only because they didn't respond in time, but they're good people over there. They're invited. I was featured in their Cannabis Social Justice Museum with my wanted poster from when I got busted and framed by the Boston Police Department. Then there's also Pure Oasis in Roxbury, Kobe and Kevin. They've been invited as well. Yeah, so it's a wide open variety. And the old school cannabis people too, the people who actually wrote the laws, Chanel and Shailene and everybody. I cast a wide net. But y'all, I think we lost Matthew anyway. Or I think he said his phone was dying. Or maybe we didn't lose him.
Yeah, I'm here. Thank you for asking that question. One last question. You said that you work in City Hall, and Priscilla also mentioned something about abandoned buildings in these specific communities. Is there any type of way that I can get, or anyone can get information on these abandoned buildings in these communities? Is it for public, like access? Can we get access to that?
Yeah, so obviously, I'm not on work hours right now. So any, type questions about City Hall type of stuff, get at me and we could do that there. But I can tell you, yeah, all those lists are public.
All
Yeah,
right.
all of the properties that the city of Boston has for sale and all those type of things, those are all, it's all public information. And if you hit me up Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 p.m., I will be more than happy to put you on.
Ain't gotta tell me one time, black man.
Yes, sir. All right. So anybody else got anything before we get off? It's 10:45. We've been going. You know what I mean? Anybody else got anything else before we
I just say that I've been enjoying these talks that you've been giving, Jamal. They've been very, very informative. I learned a lot of stuff that I did not know. And I would support you in this. And I'm just thankful that there are like-minded people. They may not all be on this call, but there are some people that really want to do something to change the narrative of our streets, of our stories. And I know Minister Randy Muhammad is one of them. And so that's why we can't let them separate us. That's what has been one of our downfalls, is that we let them separate us. They pick and choose who they want to deal with. They pick and choose who they call to the meeting. But I'm at the point where if there's a meeting, I'm going, if I have the time and if I'm available. However, we as community, I don't know what it's going to take for us to realize it, because we've been going through this for a long time. This ain't just like started happening. We've been going through this since the 70s, 60s, 50s. And so it's time. I mean, we're 2022. It's time for us to come together. I mean, Lorraine, you where you're at. Matthew's in Boston now. Kyra, do you live in Boston?
Yeah, it's Kiara. I live in Roxbury.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I do screw up people's names. I apologize. And I know Aisha lives here in Boston. So, I mean, and it doesn't have to be. We don't all have to live in Boston, to be able to do the work, because we got folks everywhere. Brockton, Stoughton, Lawrence, all over. We have people. So
Somerville.
On the Zoom. Huh? What'd you say, Yvette?
Somerville,
Cambridge, Randolph. And so all we gotta do is jump on the Zoom. So
I mean, so not
where
for
there's
nothing.
a will, there's a way.
And not for nothing. So these are the types of things that I'm striving to do it. I don't do these, just for fun. Striving to do these just for that reason, to detect like minds, activate like minds. Anytime I used to speak to people, I used to, say something from when I was a kid. I forget it was a cartoon or a TV show, but I'd be like, look, I'm making you a deputy. And I would be like, ching, you know what I mean? Like, everybody now, you a deputy, right? So everybody now, you deputized, and your new mission is to spread the good word, spread the gospel, you dig, and get more people. And once again, when I talk about getting critical mass or getting more people, we don't have to wait till it's like 1,000 people. We'll be waiting forever. You know what I mean? But I'm just talking about each one of us, as they talk about when it's time to go to vote or when it's time to do anything. You got a couple friends or whatever, and your knucklehead friends, and the friends that might be interested. So just try to bring a friend next time. Or what's that old shampoo commercial? And he did one, and then we did one, and then blah, 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 blah. So it's a thing where it really has to spread, like that. And we have to make it sexy. We have to make it the cool thing. Like, oh, you missed that meeting? Oh man, they were dropping it. Oh, you should have been there. Oh, really? You know, people are nosy by nature. You know what I mean? All these type of things. And then that's the other thing why these are recorded. So they'll be there, you know, for
Documentation.
yeah, for people to hear who did miss it this time. Maybe they work another shift. They getting off at 3 o'clock in the morning. They'll listen to it then. Whatever. I don't know. But there's a reason for this. And I put my YouTube link in there for that very same reason. Because another thing, sister, pardon me, you was asking about like, you know, teaching people and whatnot. When the pandemic first hit, I put together this thing that I called the conscious curriculum because I wanted to share with people what I knew. So I quickly went through YouTube and gathered up all the stuff I knew, scholars, not all, but a lot of the stuff I knew, various scholars and speeches and blah, 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 blah. And I put together the conscious curriculum. And I did it in a couple of lanes. I did one for like teens and adults, you know, that has stuff like Spook Who Sat by the Door, that movie, and, you know, the Asada documentary, and, you know, all this type of stuff that, you know, is more for, like I said, teens and adults. Then I also did one for kids. There's a lot of like African cartoons and, you know, superheroes and all that type of stuff. Then I did one for life skills, from everything about like how to wash your hands properly to like fill out a resume to tie a tie. And I did that as a tool for people. Once again, if you got kids in your thing, go to my YouTube, check that out. See if there ain't something there already that's either going to edify your own life, put you on to something you might not have seen before, something you could share with a youth. And also too, it should be cool at the same time too. I didn't put no whack, boring movies and lectures up there. Like the stuff is, you know, this is stuff you could chill out with and like, you know, have fun with the whole family. You know, these type of things. But so really trying to popularize it and bring it out there like that. So, you know, all of y'all are deputized. I need your help. Go forth. Please, Sister Kiara, you got something to say? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, well, first, thank you. This was very fruitful. Yeah, I learned a lot. I wanted to share 3 places, things that have been a source of community for me, but also a place where I've been able to grow in different ways. So the first thing I would say is the Building Black Wealth series that is it's like a workshop seminar that happens every second Wednesday of the month on Zoom, and they talk about different aspects of financial things. So how to build wealth, your taxes, budgeting, money management, credit, real estate, estate planning and life insurance, all the things. And I've been going to those meetings since probably like 2016 on and off. Whenever I'm starting to slip, I always go back. But last year, my credit score was like 540 or something, and now it's 670. And just by like going to their workshops and then working with Michelle Brathwaite, it's Michelle Brathwaite and Denisha McDonald that put it together. It's through Our Village Initiative, and just working with them and applying the things that they teach and meeting with them is what helped me get my affairs in order. And then also they have a savings challenge that they do every year where you pick an amount that you want to save. And then if you reach your goal, then you get an opportunity to win $1,000 and whatever. But they have all these different things that help people learn about how to build wealth and get themselves in order. But also like it's all free unless you want to like do a different tier where they're like more involved in your process than you pay, but it's all free and it's been very helpful for me. And I just think it's a great resource. Like we always talk about how Black folks need to develop in terms of economics and build wealth together and keep our dollar within our community. And that's one way that we can learn how to do that and get clarity on where we're at financially so we can know in what way do we need to build to actually be useful to the community? Because it's nice to have an idea or to have a vision. There's lots of things I want to do, but my credit score is trash and I'm like buying takeout every week, then I need to get my shit together before I could really, show up. So that's Building Black Wealth series, Our Village Initiative, Michelle Brathwaite, Denise McDonald. Those are great people worth connecting with. And then Frugal Bookstore, which is how I even know Jamal. I work there part-time, and it's just a great place. Black-owned bookstore, only Black-owned bookstore in Boston. They have events. They will, if you reach out to them about an event or something, that is a possibility. So I think that is a great place to just be and connect with other people and possibly hold things there. I just think like we have these entities, and as long as we like know about them and make the effort, I think that can be valuable and help us reach some of these goals that were shared tonight. And then the last thing I would say is the Roxbury branch of the Boston Public Library. I hosted an event there this summer, and they allowed me to do it there for free. They were very supportive. Acuna is the person that, and Alan Knight, those are the two people that I worked with directly. I think Alan is like the director, he runs the library. Acuna is a librarian there, does a lot of community events, but they're great people. Host an event there. I've done workshops. Like they've given all three of those entities, Building Black Wealth, Frugal Bookstore, and the library, have all given me opportunities to like grow my own things and do programming. So just wanted to share that, because if we all form like Voltron, we can get some shit done. And those are the entities that have allowed me to get things done. So I just wanted to share that.
And another spot that we could probably use at times too is the Do It Center. They got a brand new center over there, and they're very flexible with people using it. So that's another spot right there, 122 DeWitt Drive. It's it's that's what we've been meeting at the last 3 weeks, and they're very accommodating. So.
What was the name of that bookstore, Kyra?
Frugal.
Kiara and Frugal Bookstore, yeah.
Actually, my book is in that store, Kiara. It's called I Look Back and Wonder How I Got Over. Priscilla Flint.
Yeah, or I hit something. But yeah, Matthew, brother, yeah, I'm gonna put the website in there now. Frugalbookstore.net. Yeah, there you go. So all right, so anybody else got anything? Because we about to end this thing.
I just want to say, oops, let me come back. Sorry. I just want to say it's been awesome meeting all of you and the little side conversations I've been having with everyone. And I look forward to the next steps. And I invite you all to come to the Roxbury Library on the 15th, where we want to hear from businesses, nonprofits, organizations that have something to give back to the community. And we also want to invite you to an event that, Jamal, you're going to be on the panel, correct? At the UMass Hip Hop Archive event?
I don't believe so.
Oh, okay, I'm wrong. So I'll send you the flyer, I'll get the email, and there's more conversations about hip hop, piecing the pieces back together.
Can somebody send me that flyer as well so I can post it on my webpage, on my Facebook page?
Okay. So how are we going to get everybody's email address, Jamal? If
everybody put it in the chat, when this is all done, I will send the email probably tomorrow or the day after. It takes, it will provide a text of the chat. So you'll have the same chat that we all have.
Okay.
Not anything that y'all talked about privately or anything like that, but just anything that's in the main chat.
Thank you.
Actually, I believe if you at the bar at the chat right next to the chat, there's 3 little dots, and if you click on it, you can save the chat to your computer. You can't get the whole meeting, but you can get the chat.
Oh yeah, right. Y'all could do that individually, right?
Mm.
Yeah, when it's all done, it sends it to me as a file.
So I'm on my phone, unfortunately. Is anybody
Yeah,
gonna do that or?
I'm on my phone too, so I can't do it. I don't think I can do it from my phone.
Yeah, as long as your email is in there, then you're gonna get it. You left your email, right?
Yes.
All right.
20.
Yeah, then you're gonna get it.
We're just like ready, Jamal. We're just like ready. Come on.
Hey,
30-minute turnaround.
I've been ready since I've been 17. Y'all are late.
Well, hey, I was raising my kids. I had to take care of them. So I'm ready.
Yeah,
I was a Black Panther, so I've been out here.
That's what I'm saying. So it's all good. And every time these things happen, it's nice to get, renewed vim and vigor. But definitely we want to move. Hey, Cornell, we must be very strategic. Hey,
right.
Priscilla, do you know who that is? We must be very strategic. Right now, we must be strategic as we move.
No, I don't.
You don't remember that dude?
Uh-uh.
I'm sure you might remember.
That
You
sound
might
like
remember.
Walter.
That's Slayton.
Reverend Walters, yeah.
Oh,
Yes,
yeah. Yeah.
Very strategic.
You sound just like him, Jamal.
No, because it's etched in my brain.
I know,
Listen.
but you're not a fan of his. Yeah.
Ugh, God bless
Something
America.
else. Yeah.
All right, y'all. Well, thank you for coming. And you have a great night. If anybody else has any thing that they need to chop it up with me about, hopefully all y'all got my phone number and everything. So feel free. And yeah, thank you for coming this evening. We had a discussion with Hakim Green and then took it, you know what I mean, to the next level. So yes, please, y'all, spread the word, spread the word, spread the word, and you'll be getting this soon. All right.
Okay. Hey, Jamal,
Yeah.
are you doing any live streaming or videotaping of your event on the 11th?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
It's a paid event. That would defeat the purpose.
But
I don't
it's
have a
out there.
response to that.
But it's out there. People
Yeah.
pay for it to see it, but people who missed it should see the next one that's coming. So you're
They
using
might could
that
see it
first.
after the fact, but no. I don't, no.
Okay, you already set it up. Gotcha.
This is a ticketed event. People need to come and pay tickets to see it. And then if not, they'll get the video, maybe, I don't know,
How much are the tickets?
$25.
That's reasonable.
I think so too.
Well, I mean, it's reasonable. Yep. I was just saying reasonable to who, but yep.
Okay, well, okay. Now let me
But
tell
that's
you. No, sister, it's all fair. Let me tell you how
Okay.
I come to these type of things. So I just recently saw a comedy event at a broke down backwater bar with nobody you ever heard of, and their price to come in was like $35. And this is a bar I wouldn't even go to like on a regular night. So $35 to go to a bar to see some no-name comics. Okay. I'm bringing a national talent here. There's a whole panel beforehand. Then there's a performance at the end with 5 different local acts, plus a national headliner, plus the panel beforehand. Yeah, I think that's worth $25. And it goes from 7 until 11.
So Jamal, this is what I'm saying. Like this great thing, that's great. I mean, $25, that's nothing, right? That's a half a bag, right? But it's like the cannabis industry, how come they can't sponsor this thing so that the people that need to come in and hear this can come in and hear it?
I mean, not for nothing. This is something that I tried. No, it's all questions are good. I don't do that. I'm not worried about nothing. I got answers. So once again, from before what y'all was saying, the money, money. I'm not focused on that. So the reason that they can't sponsor it is, quite frankly, because I didn't ask. I didn't need their money. I put this on dolo with my own money. And now I'm hoping that it has an impact in the community. The community has value and sees the value in what's happening. And I'm hoping that they're willing to pay that money to now make that into something so that I can continue on doing it. That's just business. You know, I didn't look out for sponsors or nothing like that because I'm more like a do for self dude. So I didn't, you know, that's just that my first thought is just get it done. How do I do it? And I do that. I don't think about getting a grant or getting someone else to sponsor or whatever. I'm not opposed to it. It's just not generally how I operate.
Right. And I'm not thinking about it that way, but you know, this is something for the community, those that within the cannabis, I don't know if it's their CBA or their understanding, they're supposed to be giving back for disproportionately people in the communities, right? So it's like that's the audience. You right? So
no, because the people who would be giving back, that would be all the white cannabis industry people. I didn't invite them to even speak. So what the people that I've invited to speak is us, the people who have scrapped their way through the industry and made it somehow, and then now they're sharing the information that they have. Now it's open to everybody. Everybody can come. You know what I mean? But the focus is, trying to build up us. You know what I mean?
okay. Well, thank you so much for this tonight.
Absolutely. Appreciate you, sis. Don't be a stranger. Everybody should have the contact info. Y'all all be getting the chat and everything like that. Have a great evening.
Thank
You
you.
too.
You too. Good
Peace.
night.
Nice seeing you, Lorraine. Take it
You-
easy.
Thank you. You too. We'll
Yeah.
talk.
Stay in the
Nice
struggle.
meeting you all.
I am.
Seeing you,
Bye.
Yvette.